Why? Because it's more entertaining.
You have to be kidding. Here we
Mr.
go
President?
again with Russia. They're in facilities that were so clean.
Freshman science.
And violence.
Speak on the videos
President
of all
Trump,
these people.
The crime
To
bill
think that you've done more for the black community than Obama.
Tens of thousands.
The one with the lowest IQ, the people with the lowest IQ come back from the fucking court here. We need to change. You just can't keep using natural, non-renewable fucking sources. Wow.
So we don't have to worry about
Let's
it
move
anymore.
on to the next
Yeah,
section.
fine.
Can't just have the last
We're
word.
running out of time.
That was fun.
I think the reason I was up till all night was all the fucking Twizzlers I ate.
I was up all night because I was here writing. It's up. It's ready. The live debate. Here we are. Cute. It's supposed to start any second. It's already
I hope he didn't lie this time. Like
6:01.
last time.
He's like not there. In the spirit of just posting videos, we are going to watch the last presidential debate of the 2020 election together. It's currently 6:01 Pacific time, so it's supposed to have started. But we're watching it on C-SPAN.
It looks like Battlestar Galactica. So that's good.
That's true. It's a little Star Trek-y.
It's a little much. Eagle is backlit.
A lot of blue.
They just said go for it.
Just like subliminal messaging. Please, for the safety of everyone, do this. Do you need to be taking notes? Yes, get it. Yes, she came to slay today, girl.
God, who's that?
Who did those lashes? Come on now. That's fun. That whole outfit, I'm here for it. She is ready. She is ready. Okay. Trump's gonna cut her off 1,000 times. You know, if you're 3 minutes late at some places, you get ridden up. Do you have any expectations?
Just like last time, I think that it's just
Which last time? The one the first debate or the one that turned into
every time it's to watch it live. It's historical. It's happening right now. This is in the history books. This lunatic. This will go. This is.
I'm like almost a little nervous. Like nothing's gonna change who I'm voting for. Like that's not gonna not there. But I feel at this point like I have to watch.
Good evening from Belmont University in Nashville, Tennessee. I'm Kristen Welker of NBC News, and I welcome you to the final 2020 presidential debate between President Donald J. Trump and former Vice President Joe Biden. Tonight's debate is sponsored by the Commission on Presidential Debates. It is conducted under health and safety protocols designed by the Commission's health security advisor.
One of you got COVID.
In the hall has promised to remain silent. No cheers, boos, or other interruptions, except right now, as we welcome to the stage former Vice
we're
President
watching
Joe
from
Biden
home.
And President Donald
No
J. Trump.
agrees that.
I talk like a robot.
No, she's ready. She's ready. Yes! Biden walked out on stage with his mask. Ah! Bam! Okay, that made me excited. That's like the guy that jumps off the starting clock and it's a really good dive in swimming.
That we just didn't even see him.
And I do want to say a very good evening to both of you. This debate will cover 6 major topics. At the beginning of each section, each candidate will have 2 minutes uninterrupted to answer my first question. The debate commission will then turn on their microphone only when it is their turn to answer. And the commission will turn it off exactly.
I wonder
when
why.
Punishments have consequences.
Both microphones will
We're going to
remain
get
on.
mic
On
cutoffs.
behalf of the voters, I'm going to ask you to please speak one at a time. The
Don't.
goal is for
We
you
need
to
to turn
hear
it off.
each other, and for the American people to hear every word of what you both have to say. And so with that,
Well, hopefully you're watching on your
Let's
own
start.
because I don't think you're going to hear every
We'll begin
word.
with the fight against the coronavirus. President Trump, the first question is for you.
Why?
The country
Just
is
why?
heading into a dangerous new phase.
Why didn't we
More than
start off with
40,000
can we talk
Americans are in
about
the hospital tonight with COVID,
your 2 different
including
town
record
halls?
numbers here in Tennessee.
I guess that's
And since
pointless.
the two of you last shared a stage, 16,000 Americans have died from COVID. So please be specific. How would you lead the country during this next stage of the coronavirus?
Well, one of them is already
2 minutes,
leading the country, and by leading, I mean
So,
they're not.
as you know, 2.2 million people modeled out were expected to die. We closed up the greatest economy in the world in order to fight this horrible disease.
So we're going
that
with
came
by how
from
many
China.
people we thought were supposed
It's
to
a
die.
worldwide pandemic. It's all over the world. You see the spikes in Europe and many other places right now.
I thought it was supposed to be
Did you
gone in
notice
April.
The mortality rate is down 85%. The excess mortality rate is way down and much lower than almost any other
Cut the mic.
country. And we're fighting it, and we're fighting it hard. There is a spike. There was a spike
No,
in
it gets 2
Florida,
minutes. It
and
gets 2 minutes.
It's now
Just cut it
gone.
off after 2.
There was a very big spike in Texas. It's now gone. There was a very big spike in Arizona. It's now gone. And there are some spikes and surges
Can't believe we have
in
to
other
debate where they
places.
cut
They
off
will
people's
soon be
mics.
gone.
Like that's
We have
literally
a vaccine
like
that's coming.
like
It's
children
ready.
that can't play
Joe
correctly.
has a little
Like,
Going
foot
to be
switch down
announced
there.
within weeks, and it's going to be
He's
delivered.
waiting for him
We
to
have
bring up his son.
Operation
Oh,
Warp
God.
Speed, which is the military is going to distribute the
Warp
vaccine.
speed?
I can tell you
Yeah,
from
Operation Warp
personal
Speed.
experience
What?
that I was
you
in
know,
the hospital.
because
I
just like I
had
said,
it,
we're Starship
and I
Troopers,
got
so we're
better.
the fuck
And I
we're
will
at.
tell you that I had
This is real.
something that they gave me, a therapeutic, I guess they would call it. Some people could say it was a cure. But
Some people
I
say
was in
it's
for a
cure.
short period of
Okay.
time, and I got better very fast, or I wouldn't be here tonight. And now they say I'm immune, whether it's
I'd love to know
4
how
months or
much this
lifetime.
treatment
Nobody's been able to
I
say
mean, for
that,
like
but
American
I'm immune.
taxpayers, all that. Like,
More and more
4 months.
people are getting better. We have a problem that's a worldwide problem. This is a worldwide
rambled.
problem. But I've been
He just
congratulated by the heads of many countries
What
for
was the
what we've
question?
been able to do.
they have it on the
With
screen for us.
if you
Oh, thank
take a
God.
look at
How
what
would you
we've
lead the
done in
country in the
terms
next
of
stage of the
goggles
coronavirus pandemic?
You just-
masks
this
And I
is
said,
the-
well,
gowns and
this is-
everything else.
This
And in
is
it's
particular,
already not
ventilators.
leading.
We're
So
now
like,
making
we know this.
ventilators
Like, this is,
all
This is
over the
going
world,
good.
thousands and thousands a month, distributing
I
them.
I mean,
all
has it
over
been
the
2
world.
minutes? Can I
It will
chat? I
go
feel
away,
like
and as I say,
it just
we're
says live.
rounding
It just
the
let me know.
turn, we're
I want
rounding
to
the
counter
turn. It's going
as like
away.
Okay,
On
former
the
Vice
screen.
President Biden, to you, how would you lead the country out of this crisis?
God.
You have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
220,000 Americans dead.
Yeah.
You hear nothing else I say tonight. Hear this. Anyone who's responsible for not taking control, in fact, not saying I take no responsibility initially. Anyone who's responsible for that many deaths should not remain as President of the United States of America. We're in a situation where there are 1,000 deaths a day now.
Yeah, just answer
1,000
the
deaths
question.
a day.
I
And
appreciate
there are over
that answer.
70,000
It is
new
very
cases
risky to
per day.
say somebody's so allowed has allowed
compared
that many people
to
to die
what's going on in
to
Europe.
not be president
As
because
the
like
New England Medical Journal said, they're
that's
starting
like-
from a very
Been here a
low
long time,
rate.
Joe.
We're starting
Well,
from a very high rate. The expectation
then
is
it's a
we'll
good
have
thing. What
another
if another
200,000 Americans
200,000 people die in
dead.
the first year? That's just
Time
I mean
between now
I
and
get
the end
it.
of the
I
year.
get where we're trying to
We
go.
just
It's like
wore these masks.
you know, wear
President's
these
own
masks.
advisors
But
told them we could save 100,000
bold
lives.
statement.
And we're in a circumstance where the president thus
Hope.
far and still has
You
no
know,
plan.
One thing that
No comprehensive plan. What I would do is make sure we have everyone encouraged to wear a mask all the time. I would make sure we move in the direction of rapid testing, investing in rapid testing. I would make sure that we set up national standards as to how to open up schools and open up businesses so they can be safe and give them the wherewithal, the financial resources to be able to do that. We're in a situation now where the New England Medical Journal, one of the most serious journals in the whole world, said for the first time ever that the way this president has responded to this crisis has been absolutely tragic. And so, folks,
Tragic.
I will take care of this. I will end this. I will make sure we have a plan.
President Trump, I'd like to
What's the plan?
follow up with you in your comments.
I
You
mean,
talked
that's
about
fair.
something
Problem I have is that
therapeutic. I
it's just
assume you're
always,
referencing Regeneron. You also
why
said a
Biden
vaccine will
or
be
why
coming
Trump sucks,
within
and I'm like, I
weeks.
get it, Joe.
Is
You
that
don't
a
want Trump to be
guarantee?
president.
Is
No, it's not a
Continue with
guarantee,
your-
but it will be by the end of the year. But I think it has a good chance. There are 2 companies.
Cannot
that
guarantee it, but it will be
in
by the end of
weeks,
the year.
and it will be
You just-
distributed very
Can
quickly.
you tell us which companies?
Johnson & Johnson is doing very well. Moderna is doing very well. Pfizer is doing very well, and we have
Operation
numerous
Hyperspeed.
others. Then we also
my
have others that
God.
we're working on very closely with other countries, in particular Europe.
Let me follow up with you, and because this is new information, you have said a vaccine is coming soon within weeks now. Your own officials say it could take well into 2021 at the earliest for enough Americans to get
It says here
vaccinated.
you're
And even
full
then, they
shit.
say the country will be wearing masks and distancing into 2022. Is your timeline realistic?
No, I think my timeline is going to be more accurate. I don't know that they're counting on the military the way I do, but we have our generals lined up, one in particular that's the head of logistics, and this is a very easy distribution for him. He's ready to go as soon as we have the vaccine, and we expect to have 100 million vials. As soon as we have the vaccine, he's ready to go.
Vice President Biden, your reaction, and just 40% of Americans say they would definitely
This
agree
isn't
to
as
take a coronavirus vaccine
other one
if
was
it
more-
was approved by the president.
Oh my God.
To give
Not as
Americans
entertaining
confidence
because
in
so
a
far
vaccine
they're
if it were
good.
approved.
Make
I
sure
mean,
it's
so I
totally
feel
transparent.
Coronavirus changed
I was
him.
Of the
real
science
engaged
will
in
see
the
it,
last one.
know it, look at it, go through all the processes. And by the way,
real engaged.
this is the same fellow who told you
That's
this is going to
funny.
end by Easter last time. This is the same fellow who told you that, don't worry, we're going to end this by the summer. We're about
Yeah.
to go into a dark winter.
Facts.
Dark winter. And he has no clear plan, and there's no prospect that there's going to be a vaccine available for the majority of the American people before the
That's
middle of
a-
next year.
President
dark
Trump, your reaction?
winter.
Dark
I got no
winter. We're
plan
like
for
we're
the
back in the
dark
books and the
winter
movies.
at all.
Like
We're opening up
it's
our
time of
country.
dark.
We've
The dark
learned
winter.
and studied and understand the
Escape of
disease,
the dark
which we
winter.
didn't at the
Biden's been
beginning.
around. He's
When
seen,
I
he knows what
closed
dark
and
Yeah,
winter
he's
banned
been around.
China
He knows dark
from
winter.
coming in
47
heavily
years of
infected, and
leadership.
then ultimately
He's been
Europe.
around.
But China was in January. Months
So
later, he
47
was
I feels
saying I
like
was
bare
xenophobic.
work.
I
He's
did
been-
it
I
too
feel like he's
soon.
been
Now
around
he's
for a
saying,
long
"Oh, I should have, moved quicker." But he didn't move quicker. He was months behind me,
He
many
was the
months
fucking
behind me.
president.
And frankly, he ran the
Such-
H1N1
He's just lying.
Oh my god, I'm going back to H1N1.
and it was a total disaster, far less lethal, but
Joe,
it
give
was
me
a total
shake your head.
disaster. Had that had this kind of numbers, 700,000 people would be dead right now. But it was a far less lethal disease. Look, his own person who ran that for him, who, as you know, was his
That's why
chief of
people can
staff,
see it's the way he puts
said
his head down when he's trying to listen
it
and
was
take
I know
notes.
that it
catastrophic.
That's when
might be
people think
like-
he's
It
like
was horrible.
sleepy. That's,
We didn't know what we were
but
doing.
all he's doing
Now
is like
he
trying to
comes up
listen to
and he
this
tells us
bumbling
how to do
buffoon.
this. Also, everything that he said about the way every single move that he said we
There
should
it
make,
is. Look
that's
up.
what we've done.
Sleepy
We've
Joe.
done all of it. But he was way behind us.
Vice President Biden, your response.
That's
My
something
response is he is
Trump
xenophobic,
gave us
but
is
not
like,
because he
Oh,
should
now
have
we're
he is
calling everything.
xenophobic.
access from China. And he did it late after 40 countries
But
had
not
already
because
done
of
that.
that.
In
Because
addition to
you
that, what he
fucking
did, he made sure that we had 44 people that were in there in China trying to get to Wuhan to determine what exactly the source was. What did the president say in January? He said, no, he said, this is,
Why is the
he's
color
being
weird on
transparent. The
Trump's
president
suit.
of
Is it
China
is it
being
is it
transparent.
our
We
line?
owe him a debt
That's
of
the-
gratitude.
Or is it-
We
or is
we have to
that-
thank him. And then what happened was we started talking about using the
Or is
Defense
that like
Act
do they have like
to
a
make
color
sure we
correction?
go out and get whatever is needed
Oh my
out
god.
there to
They
protect
gave him
people.
something.
And again, I go back to this.
Yeah,
He had
superpowers.
nothing, he did virtually nothing. And then he gets out of the hospital and he talks about this is over, don't worry, it's all gonna be over soon. Come on. There's not another serious scientist in the world who thinks it's gonna be over soon.
All right, I'm like here in the cave until 2022, like plotting
we
my
have no choice. We can't lock ourselves up in a basement like Joe
You
does.
lock-
Actually.
He has the ability to lock himself up. I don't know. He's obviously made a lot of money someplace, but he has this thing about living in a basement. People can't do that. By the way, I, as the president,
Living in
couldn't do
a-
that. I'd
Made
have
a
to
lot
put
of money.
myself in
Yes,
the basement
find
of
a
a beautiful room
find
in
a
the
way
White
to
House
slip it in.
and go away for a
The
year and a
whole
half
debate
until
he's
it
gonna do
disappears.
made a lot of
I
money.
can't
Like
do
I'd
that.
be coming.
And
Oh my
Chris,
god, I just
every
can't.
every
This is
meeting
so.
I had,
Literally the most
every
corrupt
meeting I
person
had,
ever.
and I'd meet a lot of families,
Excuse
including
me.
Gold Star families and military families. Every meeting I had, and I had to meet them. I had to. It would be horrible to have canceled everything. I
Oh
said,
my
you
God,
know,
his sentences,
this
he
is
talks like
dangerous.
a 5-year-old.
and you catch it. And I caught it. I learned a lot. Great doctors,
I
great
know, I'm like,
hospitals.
what is?
But
and
the
now
point-
I
that's-
recovered.
it's just, you know, always-
99.9 of young people recover.
99
99% of people recover. We have to recover. We can't close up our nation. We have to open our school, and we can't close up our nation, or you're not going to have a nation.
And of course, the CDC has said young people
So
can get
both
sick
of
with
them are
COVID-19
saying
and
is
can
that it's
pass it.
doomed
Vice
if
President
we
Biden, I
don't
want
do
to
what
talk
they say.
broadly about strategy,
God.
though.
Yeah.
You
Can I
have
respond to that?
30 seconds, please, and then I have a
30
question.
No, number one, he says that we're learning to live with it.
Come on, Joe.
People are learning to die with it. You folks home will have an empty chair at the
This is
kitchen
smooth.
table this morning. That man or wife going to bed tonight and reaching over to try to touch their, out of habit, where their wife or husband was, is gone. Learning to live with it. Come on. We're dying with it because he's never said, you said it's dangerous. When's the last time? Is it really dangerous still? Are we dangerous? You tell the people it's dangerous now? What should they do about the danger? And you say, I take no responsibility.
Let me talk about your two.
Excuse me,
Very
I take full responsibility.
Cut that mic.
It's not my fault. that it
Right?
came
I
here.
didn't
It's
know we're
China's
getting it
fault.
back. I
And
thought
you
there
know what?
wasn't
It's
the
not
response.
Joe's
It was
fault that
supposed-
it came here either. It's China's fault. They
Ah,
kept it from
this
going
whole
into the
that
rest
and that's
of
what makes
China for the most part.
xenophobic. You can't just
But they didn't
China,
keep
the
it
China
from going
virus,
out
the
to
China.
the world,
No.
including Europe and ourselves.
Cut that mic.
Vice President Biden.
Fact is that when we knew
we actually got a debate in this
when
one.
it
We got to
hit,
get the back and forth.
what
Okay.
happened? What did the president say? He said, don't worry, it's going to go away be gone by Easter. Don't worry. Warm weather. Don't worry. Maybe inject bleach. He said he was kidding when he said that, but a lot of people thought it was serious. A whole range of things the president has said. Even today, he thinks we are in control. We're about to lose 200,000 more people.
President Trump.
Look, perhaps just to finish this.
Wait, are we still going back?
Just to finish.
I was
How
getting
many
that, but just to
back and
finish
forths are we
this.
gonna do though?
When I closed, he said I shouldn't have closed. And that went on for months.
Right,
What
and-
Nancy Pelosi said the same thing. She was dancing on the streets in
The
China.
rule of the debate: if you start the word, the other person gets the
But
last
when I
word. That's just how.
closed,
That's
he
how
said,
they
This
they
is
go.
a terrible thing. You're xenophobic. I think he called me racist even. And because I was closing it to China. Now he says I should have closed it earlier. It just, Joe, it doesn't work.
I didn't say either of those things.
You
I didn't
certainly
say sugar
did.
cola
You
Thursday,
certainly
and I
did.
Oh no,
I talked
Joe,
about his
don't give in.
xenophobia in a different context. It wasn't about closing the border to Chinese coming to the United States.
All right, I want to
Okay,
talk about both of your different
Let's move- nope.
strategies to handling
He thought
this.
I shouldn't have closed the border.
Well, let's.
That's obvious.
Do you want to respond to that quickly, Vice President
No.
Biden? Okay.
Thank you.
Let's talk about your different strategies toward
He said,
dealing
"No,
with
we're
this.
not
Mr.
gonna go
Vice
back and
President, you
forth,
suggested
like,
you would support
that.
new shutdowns if scientists recommended it. What do you say to Americans who are fearful that the cost of shutdowns, the impact on the economy, the higher rates of hunger, depression, domestic and substance abuse outweighs the risk of exposure to the virus?
What
I
I would
disagree.
say
It's a
is
new
I would
life.
shut
It's a
down
new
the
world.
virus, not the country.
It's a new world.
It's his ineptitude that caused the country
Like
to have
we'll,
to shut
we'll have
down
another
in
pandemic.
large
Like
part.
it'll be like
Why businesses have gone under, why schools are closed,
Happened
why so
before.
many people have lost their living, and why they're concerned.
there's just more
Those
people.
other
out.
concerns are real. That's why he should have been, instead of in a sand trap at his golf course, he should have been negotiating with Nancy Pelosi and the rest of the Democrats and Republicans about what to do about the acts they were passing for billions of dollars to make sure people had the capacity.
But you haven't ruled out more shutdowns.
Well, no, I'm not shutting down the name, but there are, look, you need standards. The standard is if you have a reproduction rate in a community that's above a certain level, everybody says, slow up, more social distancing, do not open bars and do not open gymnasiums, do not open until you get this under control, under more control. But when you do open, give the people the capacity to be able to open and have the capacity to do it safely. For example, schools. Schools, they need a lot of money to open. They need to deal with ventilation systems. They need to
What do you
deal
say
with
to
smaller
people who are
classes,
worried about the
more
consequences
teachers,
of
more
another shutdown?
pods. And
I
he's
mean,
refused to support that money, or at least up to now.
isn't the alternative
Let's talk
to
about
death
schools.
always
President
the
Trump-
I
better
think we have to
alternative?
respond, if I might.
Please,
Like-
and then I have a follow-up.
Thank you, and I appreciate that.
Isn't like
Look, all he does is talk about shutdowns. But forget
die
about him.
or not
The
die, and
Democrat
like which
governors,
one's
Cuomo
better?
in
Will
New
not
York,
die.
You look at what's going on in California. You look at Pennsylvania, North
What other
Carolina.
consequences are there?
Democrats all, they're shut down so tight, and they're dying. They're dying. And he supports all these
Are
people.
we? Are we?
All he talks about is
Are we
shutdowns.
dying?
No, we're not going to shut down, and we have to open our
I don't
schools.
know.
And it's
Washington's
like, as an example, I
doing
have a
pretty
young
well.
son. He also tested positive.
Oh,
By the time I spoke to the doctor the second time, he was fine. It just went away. Young people, I guess it's their immune system.
Let me follow up with you, President Trump. You've demanded schools open in
Oh,
person
oh,
and insist they can do it
yes.
safely. But just yesterday, Boston became the latest city to move its public school system entirely online after a coronavirus spike. What is your message to parents who worry that sending their children to school will endanger not only their kids, but also their teachers and
The
families?
homeschool.
I want to open
Send
the
a parent.
schools. The transmittal rate to the
Happening.
teachers is
Oh.
very small, but I want to open the schools. We have to open our country. We're not going to have a country. You can't do this. We can't keep this country
Okay,
closed.
there
This
she
is
is.
a massive country with a
Massive
massive
business.
economy. People are losing their jobs. They're committing suicide. There's
Oh my
depression, alcohol, drugs at a level that nobody's ever seen
Really?
before.
Because that sounds
No,
like
There's
this is
I
how
know.
it was
tremendous
before.
abuse.
Like
We have to open our country. You know, I've said it often. The cure cannot be worse than the problem itself.
Vice
And that's
President-
what's happening. And he wants to close down. He'll close down the country if one person in our massive bureaucracy says we should close it down.
Vice President Biden, you're
Wow.
wow, but it's not one. It's
You ought
not
to be
one
able to
person.
walk and chew
Like
gum
it's
at the
and it's a
same
it's such a
We ought to be
hypothetical
able to safely open,
question.
but when they need resources to open.
Jesus.
You need to be able to, for example, if you're going to open a business, have social distancing within the business.
Best
You
thing.
need to
best-
have, if you have a
best thing about
restaurant, you
2020
need to have
so
plexiglass dividers so
50%
people
off
can't
candy even
enter.
before Halloween. It's been
infect
Halloween
one
all month.
You need to be in a position where you can take testing rapidly and know whether a person is in fact infected. You need to be able to trace. You need to be able to provide all the resources that are needed to do this. And that is not
Would you be sending your
inconsistent
kids to
with
school?
saying that
You're gonna have to.
what we're going to
If
make
you
sure
could
that we open
homeschool
safely. And
or
by
you
the
have,
way,
like, grandmas?
all you teachers out
I
there,
don't know.
not that many of
New
you
world.
will die, so
It's
don't
It's a
worry
new world.
about it.
You had
So
kids.
don't worry
No.
about it.
You had kids. You
You're not
like
going
President
this.
Trump
It's
didn't follow
always
up.
your
By the way, I will
it's like
say this.
I
That's
get
what I'm
it.
saying. You
Look at
can't.
what's
You
happened
can't
to
like.
New York. It's a
All right,
ghost
we're going
town.
on a walk today. It's
It's
time
a
to
ghost
learn.
town. And when you talk
Come
about
with me.
plexiglass, these
Right.
are
You're saying
restaurants
you
that
can't
are
or you
dying.
shouldn't.
They can.
These are
Yeah,
businesses
oh, yeah.
with no money. Putting up plexiglass is
Dangerous and
unbelievably
yeah, we should
expensive.
just take a
And
yard
it's
off. We
not
should
the
get
answer.
smaller
I mean,
groups.
you're going to sit there in a cubicle wrapped around with
Like,
plastic.
figure it out.
These are businesses that are dying, Joe. You can't do that to people.
Oh my God.
You just can't. Take a look at
New
New
world.
York and what's happened to my wonderful city for so many years. I loved it. It was vibrant. It's dying. Everyone's leaving New York.
Take a look
Vice
at what
President
New
Biden.
York has done in terms of turning the curve down in terms of the number of people dying. And I don't look at this in terms of the way he does. Blue states and red states. They're all the United States. And look at the states that are having such a spike in the coronavirus. They're the red states. They're the states in the Midwest. They're the
How do you
states in
say
the
you
upper
don't-
Midwest. That's where the
but you-
spike
well,
is
it's
occurring
true.
significantly. But they're
Oh,
all
true. The Midwest
Americans.
is going through its like.
All Americans. And what we have to do is say,
as someone who
wear
was there
these
in
masks,
June,
number
July.
one. Make sure
not
we get the
surprised.
help that the businesses need.
The
That
outside
money's
Chicago.
already been
Right,
passed
a
to do
near
that.
mask inside.
It's been out there since
It
the
was-
beginning of the summer, and nothing's happened.
President, New York has lost more than 40,000 people, 11,000 people in nursing homes.
President Trump, what
When you
about
say spike, take a look at what's happening in Pennsylvania, where they've had it closed. Take a look at what's happening with your friend in Michigan, where her husband's the only one allowed to do anything. It's been like a prison.
Where her
That was just
husband's
ruled
the only.
unconstitutional. Take a look at North Carolina. They're having spikes, and they've been closed, and they're
Wow.
getting killed financially. We can't let that happen, Joe.
At least
you
we're not
can't
playing
let
with,
that
like,
happen.
Come on,
We
Joe
have
in
to
the
open
blue
it
tie.
up.
Oh my God,
And
shit.
we understand the
I thought about
disease.
doing this
We
earlier.
have to protect our
About, like,
seniors. We have to protect our elderly.
Fireball.
We have to protect
I've made some
especially our
rules.
seniors with
You're
heart
blue one.
problems and diabetes
I
problems.
mean,
And we will protect them. We have the best testing in the world by far. That's why we have so many cases.
Let me
I do
follow up
think
with
that's
you before we
hysterical
move
though,
on
the
to
like
our
wearing a
next
red
section.
tie, a blue
President
tie. Like
Trump
I would
this
love
week
to do
called
like.
Dr.
What if you
Anthony
just walked
Fauci,
out there with a
the nation's
fucking
best
green
known
tie or
infectious
like a
disease
mixture?
expert,
Pink
quote,
tie.
a
I finished
disaster
last
who
night.
described him and other medical experts as, quote, idiots. If you're not listening
A
to
cheer
them,
tie.
who are you listening to?
Let me-
Right there.
I'm listening to
Oh my
all
God.
including
Oh
Anthony.
my God,
I
we
get
could
on
have
very well
go
with
puff
Anthony.
some.
But
What?
he did say, don't
Talking about
wear
drinks?
masks. He did say,
What's that?
as you know,
What's what?
this
Go
is
puff?
not going to be a problem.
I'll send you a code.
I think he's a
$25
Democrat, but that's
free.
okay. He said this is not
Um,
going to be a problem. We are
It's like a
not going to have
delivery
a
service
problem
of,
at
like,
all.
store
When Joe
items.
says that
So that we
I
don't have
said-
to.
Anthony
Oh my
Fauci
God.
said, and others, and many others, and I'm not knocking him a lot. Nobody knew. Look, nobody knew what this thing was. Nobody knew where it was coming from, what it was. We've learned a lot. But Anthony said, don't wear masks. Now he wants to wear masks. Anthony also said, if you look back, exact words, here's his exact words. This is no problem. This is going to go away soon. So he's allowed to make mistakes. He happens to be a good person.
Vice President Biden, your response quickly, and then we're
What?
going to
Wait,
move on
what?
to the next
My
section.
response is that think about what the president knew in January and didn't tell
Yeah.
American
What?
people.
Yes, that
He
part.
was told this was a serious virus that spread in the air,
Joe's
and
waking
it was
up.
much worse than
Oh my God.
the flu. He
Mhm.
went on record and said to one of your colleagues, recorded, that in fact he knew how dangerous it was, but he didn't want to tell us. He didn't want to tell us because he didn't want us to panic. He didn't want us. Americans don't panic. He
Yeah.
panicked. But guess what? In the meantime, we found out in the New York Times the other day that, in fact, his folks went to Wall Street and said this is a really dangerous thing. And a memo out of that meeting, not from his administration, but from some of the brokers, said sell short because we got to get moving. It's a dangerous problem.
Well, this is
I'm going to give you 30 seconds to respond, and then we're
At the
going
Wall
to
Street
move on.
one, I don't know. Somebody went to Wall Street. You're the one that takes all the money from Wall Street. I don't take it.
Uh-oh.
You have
God.
raised a lot of money, tremendous amounts of money.
Tremendous.
And every time you raise money, deals are made. Joe. I could raise
Deals
so
are
much
made.
more money as president and as somebody that knows most of those people. I could call the heads of Wall Street, the heads of every company in America.
And do
I
what?
would blow away every record, but I don't want to do that because it puts me in a bad position. And then you bring up Wall Street. You shouldn't be bringing up Wall Street because you're the one that takes the money from Wall Street, not me.
My average-
I could blow away your records that like you wouldn't believe. We don't need
Could
money.
blow
We
away
have
your
plenty
records
of
like you
money.
wouldn't
In fact,
believe. Well, I would
we
love
beat
to.
Hillary Clinton with a tiny fraction of the money that she was able.
All right,
to.
gentlemen.
Wow.
we're gonna move on.
Average
We're gonna-
contribution $43.
All right, we're going to move on to our next
Yeah.
section, which is
One quick
national
fact.
security.
Average
And I do want to start
contribution
with the
$43.
security of our elections and some breaking news from overnight. Just last night, top intelligence
Trump's
officials
like,
confirmed again that both Russia and Iran are working to influence this election. Both countries have obtained U.S. voter registration information, these officials say, and Iran sent intimidating messages to Florida voters. This question goes to you, Mr.
Oh.
Vice President. What
Yeah.
would you
Oh,
do
did you read
to
about
put
that?
an end to this threat?
You
You have
didn't-
Yeah,
2
you were telling
minutes
me about
uninterrupted.
this.
I made it clear.
Noreen was saying about
I asked everyone else to take
Iran and
the press.
Russia.
I made it clear
This
that
news
any
is like-
country, no
I mean,
matter
of
who
course,
it is,
always. Why is it
interferes in
weird now?
American
It's
election,
like-
will
Always.
pay a price. They will pay a price.
Uh-oh.
It's been overwhelmingly clear this election. I won't even get into the last this election. That Russia has been involved.
Right. That
China's
part.
been involved to some
Fuck-
degree, and
fucking
now we've
price.
learned that Iran is involved. They will pay a price if I'm elected. They're interfering with
seltzer or
American
wine?
sovereignty. That's what's going on right now. They're interfering with American sovereignty.
What?
And to the best of my knowledge, I don't
No.
think the president said anything to Putin about it. I don't think he's talking to him a lot. I don't
This
think he
is
said a
White Claws?
word. I don't know why he hadn't said a word to Putin about it. And I don't know what he has
Or
recently
some,
said, if anything,
orchards,
to the
apple.
Iranians. My guess is he'd probably be more outspoken with regard to the Iranians. But the point is this, folks. We are in a situation
You want
where
water
we
as
have
well?
foreign countries trying to interfere in the outcome of our election. His own national security advisor told him that what is happening with his buddy, well, I will. His buddy, Rudy Giuliani, he's being used as a Russian pawn. He's being fed information that is Russian.
Am I gonna?
That
Yeah,
is
I
not
will.
true.
Love
And
it.
then what happens?
Eh.
Nothing happens. And then you find out that everything that's going on here about Russia is wanting to make sure that I do not get elected the next president of the United States because they know I know them and they know me. I don't understand why this president is unwilling to take on Putin when he's
Yes!
paying
Because you've done it
bounties
before.
to kill American soldiers in Afghanistan.
Done it
When he's
before.
engaged in activities that are trying to
Oh,
destabilize
Joe.
all of NATO. I don't know why he doesn't do it, but it's worth asking the question. Why isn't that being done? Any country that interferes with us will, in fact, pay a price because they're affecting our sovereignty.
President Trump, same question to
I
you.
have to
Let
respond.
me ask the
Yeah.
question. You're going to have 2 minutes to respond. For 2 elections in a row now, there has
Are we
been
gonna turn the
substantial
mic off?
interference from foreign adversaries. What would you do in your next term to put an end to this? 2 minutes
Well,
uninterrupted.
let me respond to the first part as
Well, how
Joe
about
answered.
you're not
Joe
the
got
moderator.
$3.5 million from Russia,
Oh.
and it came through Putin because he was very friendly
I'll
with
focus
the
again.
He just found
former
out.
mayor of
again.
Moscow, and it was the mayor of Moscow's wife, and you got $3.5 million. Your family got $3.5 million, and you know someday you're gonna have to explain
He's
why
like,
did you
"You
get
eat
3.5?
it.
I never got any
We
money
eat
from
it."
Oh my gosh.
Look at
Oh.
I knew all
We
about
eat
that.
it.
And through
While
John,
Trump's over here with his
John Rucker,
180 million of golf trips or
One thing
whatever
that's
the fuck, trying to
common
call
to
somebody
both
else
of them.
out.
they both want
They're like,
you to
"Yeah."
lose because there has been nobody tougher to Russia. With
Nobody
between the
tougher than
sanctions,
Russia?
nobody
Joe
tougher
Biden has
than me
literally
in Russia.
looked
Between the
Putin in the face and
sanctions,
said, like,
between
We
all of
understand.
what I've done with
oh
NATO,
wow,
you know,
you're
I've
just
got
a
the NATO
really
countries
crappy
to put
person,
up
huh?
an extra 130 billion going to 420
Read the book,
billion
Promise Me,
dollars
Dad.
a year. That's to guard against Russia. I sold, while he was selling pillows and sheets, I sold
Pillows
tank
and
busters
sheets.
to Ukraine. There has been nobody tougher
Busters?
on Russia than Donald Trump. And I'll tell you, they were so bad. They took over the
bring
submarine
the
port.
popcorn,
You
Mom.
remember that very well. During your term, during you and Barack Obama, they took over a big
Don't
part
bring up
of
Barack,
what should
Joe.
have been Ukraine. You handed it to them. But you were getting a lot of money from Russia. They were paying you a lot of money, and they probably still are. But now, with what
I
came
will
out
say all the
today,
talk
it's even worse.
In this
All of the
entire
emails,
election
the
of
emails, the
everybody just
horrible
saying,
emails
oh
of the
yeah,
kind
well,
of
you're
money
getting
that
paid
you
this
were
money,
raking
yeah,
in, you
there's
and your
outing each
family.
other. I believe
And Joe,
all
you
of
were
it. They're
vice
all
president
getting
when some of this was
Right.
It's
happening.
crazy how that's
And it
just
should have
like
never
all the
happened.
emails that
And I
everyone
think
knows
you
they're all
owe an explanation to the American people. Why is it? Somebody just had a news conference a little while ago who was essentially supposed to work with you and your family. But what he said was damning. And regardless of me, I think you have to clean it up and talk to the American people. Maybe you can do it right now.
Maybe you can. Come on, Joe.
Vice President Biden, you may respond.
Get it straight
And then I do want to follow up on the election
Get it
situation.
straight.
I have not taken a penny from any foreign source ever in my life. We learned that this president paid 50 times the tax in China, has a secret bank account with China, does business in China, and in fact is talking
Liar.
about me taking money. I have not taken a single penny from any country whatsoever, ever.
Tax
Number one.
returns.
Number two,
Number
this is the
two.
president. I have released all of my tax returns. 22 years. Go look at them. 22 years of my tax returns. You have
Eminem,
not
8 Mile.
released a single solitary year of your tax return. What are you hiding? Why are you unwilling? The foreign countries are paying you a lot. Russia's paying you a lot. China's paying you a lot. And your hotels and all your businesses all around the country, all around the world. And China's building a new
I don't
road
think Trump's
to a
used to
new
people saying this, and that's it. And
golf
Biden
course
does
you
that.
have
Biden
to
like
see.
calls people
So,
out.
what's going on here? Why don't release your tax return or stop talking about corruption?
President Trump, your
Yeah.
response.
First of all, I told my accountants, underwrote it. I'm going to release them as soon as we can. I want to do it.
As soon
And
as
it'll
we
show
clean it
how
up, falsify
successful,
some
how
of the
great this
information on it.
company is. But
God, the
much more
same
importantly than
thing.
that, people were saying $750. I asked them a week ago, I said, what did I pay? They said, sir, you prepaid tens of millions of dollars. I
No.
prepaid my tax. Tens over the last number of years. Tens of millions of dollars I prepaid. Because at some
This is a
point
lie?
they think it's an estimate. They think I may have to pay tax. So I already prepaid it. Nobody told me that.
Did your accountant
Nobody
tell you
told
when
you
you can
that.
release
Excuse
them?
me. And it wasn't written whenever they write this. They keep talking about $750, which I think is a filing fee. But let me just tell you, I prepaid millions and millions of dollars in
What did you
taxes. Number one. Number two,
I mean,
I don't
you
make
do
money
have a lot
from
of
China. You do. I don't make money from Ukraine. You do.
Deflect,
make
deflect.
money from
Look over
Russia.
there. Like,
You made $3.5
I don't do
million
this. You do this.
Joe.
Look.
And your
Like,
son gave you. They even have a statement that we have to give 10% to the big man. You're the big man, I think. I don't know. Maybe you're not, but you're the big man, I think. Your son said we have to give 10% to the big man. Joe, what's that all about? It's terrible.
All right, gentlemen, I want to
That's
ask you both some questions
I have to
about all of this.
respond
But I'm going to let you both respond very quickly. You just said you spoke to your accountant
Yes.
about potentially releasing your taxes. Did he tell you when you can release them? Do you
As
have
soon
a
as the order is
deadline for
finished.
when you're going to release them
I
to the
get
American
treated
people?
worse than the Tea Party got treated.
But
Because
you
I have a
don't
lot
have
of
a time.
people in there, deep down in the IRS, they treat me horribly. We made a deal, it was all settled until I decide to run for president. I get treated very badly by the IRS, very unfairly. But we had a deal all done.
very
As soon as
unfairly.
we're completed with the
Very
deal, I wanna
unfairly.
use
So
it.
you have to pay?
But
Very
I have paid
unfairly.
millions and millions
Here's
of
the people
dollars.
that pay
And
shit
it's
that
worse
literally
than that.
have like
I paid
nothing.
in advance. It's called prepaying your taxes. I paid in advance.
I want to ask you
Yeah.
both about
I was the
questions
truth comes out
regarding your
in this
potential
moment.
foreign entanglements and questions that have been raised to give you both a chance to
Some
talk
horrible
about
human
this
being.
more broadly. Respond very quickly, and then I'll get to my question.
Why did he's been saying this for 4 years? Show us. Just show us. Stop playing around.
What?
You've been saying for
Seriously.
4 years you're
Everybody
going to
knows.
release your taxes. Nobody knows, Mr. President. What they do know is you're not paying your taxes, or you're paying taxes that are so low. When last time he said what he paid, he said, I only pay that little because I'm smart. I know how to game the system.
Yeah.
Come on. Come on, folks.
Very
So
quickly, President Trump, and then I want to get to two questions to both of you.
I was put through a phony witch hunt for 3 years. It started before I even got elected. They spied
I
on
love
my
how you like talking about a
campaign.
witch
No
hunt when like
president should
he was the
ever
one
have
that
to go
like
through
went
what I
after
went through.
Obama and started
Let
some
me
of that
just
bullshit.
say this. Mueller
Just see.
and 18 angry Democrats and FBI agents all over the place spent $48 million. They went through everything I had,
Versus his
including my
almost
tax
200 million
returns,
for
and they
golf
found
courses.
absolutely no collusion and nothing wrong. 48 million. I guarantee you, if I spent 1 million on you, Joe, I could find plenty wrong, because
All right.
the kind of things that
Oh my
you've
God.
done and the kind of money
Assumption.
that your
Uh-huh.
family has taken. I mean, your brother made money in Iraq,
Let me,
millions of dollars. Your other brother made a fortune, and it's all through you, Joe. And they say you get some of it, and you do
How
live
does
very
this
well.
man-
You have houses all
How
over
does
the
Trump
place. You live
even
very
come
well.
after
all right,
somebody's
gentlemen, let
family?
me just ask
Because,
some
like,
questions
when
about
you
all
look
of
at,
this
like, I
broadly.
mean,
Vice President Biden, there
you
have
look-
been questions about
you-
the work your son has done in
your
China
children are
and
the epitome of,
Canadian
like,
energy company when you were
greatness.
vice
I
president.
mean,
In
Jesus.
retrospect, was anything about those relationships inappropriate or unethical?
Nothing was unethical. Here's what the deal. with regard to Ukraine,
Oh my God.
we had this whole question about whether or not, because he was on the board, I later learned of Burisma, a company, that somehow I had done something wrong. Yet every single solitary person, when he was going through his impeachment, testifying under oath who worked for him, said, I did my job impeccably. I carried out U.S. policy. Not one single solitary thing was out of line. Not a single thing, number one. Number two, the guy who got in trouble in Ukraine was this guy trying to bribe the Ukrainian government to say something negative about me, which they would not do and did not do because it never, ever, ever happened. My son has not
The
made
only
money.
person.
He did it.
Right.
He did it.
The only person
China.
that got
I have
anything
not
wrong was
had
the
it. The only
person
guy who made money from
that tried
China
to get the
is
government
this
to
guy.
even bad about me, and they
He's the
wouldn't
only
do it.
one. Nobody else has made money from China.
Never
President
did
Trump,
deal with
let me
China.
let me
By the
ask
way,
my question to you.
but
and
could I
then
just
you'll-
one thing?
very quickly?
His son didn't have a job for a long
His
time.
son.
Was sadly no longer
What are you
in
doing?
the military service. I won't get into that.
What?
And he didn't have a job. As soon as
Won't
he
get into
became
it. You-
vice
you-
president, Burisma, not
Dodge
the best
dropped
look-
twice. You're
not
gonna
the
come. I
best
can't. Like,
reputation
he,
in the
like
world.
literally,
I hear they paid him
This is like the-
$183,000.
kid had no
From-
friends his
this
whole
is the
life,
worst.
and just like
183, and they gave him a $3 million
That's the devil.
upfront payment,
All right.
and he had no energy.
I'm going to let the vice president
That's
respond to that quickly, and then I
100%
need to get to a
dishonest.
question to you. Very
No
quickly,
basis
Mr.
for
President.
that. Everybody investigated that. No one said anything he did was wrong in Ukraine.
Okay, President Trump, this is for you. Since you took office, you've never divested from your business. You've personally promoted your properties abroad.
Mhm.
A report this week, which was referenced, does indicate that your company has a bank account in China. So how can voters know that you don't have any foreign conflicts of interest?
What
I
the
have many
fuck?
bank accounts, and they're
But you
all
do have a
listed,
bank
and they're all
account.
over the place. I
Like,
mean, I was
it's
a
just-
businessman doing business. The bank account you're referring to, which is everybody knows about it, it's
Oh,
listed.
everyone knows
The
about
bank
it. Listen,
account was in-
really?
2013. That's what it was. It was opened it was closed in 2015, I believe. And then I decided, because I was thinking about doing a deal in China like millions of other people. I was thinking about it, and I decided I'm not going to do it. Didn't like it. I decided not to do it. Had an account open, and I closed it.
Okay.
Excuse me. And then, unlike him, where he's vice president and he does business, I then decided to
Wow.
run for president after that.
He
That was before.
literally
So I
is
closed
like
it before I even
asshole.
ran
the
for
things
president.
that he is
let alone
doing. He
became
like
president.
is, just says somebody
Big
else is doing,
difference.
and people
He is the
believe
vice
like.
president of the United States.
I mean,
his
I
son,
know
his
he
brother,
does that. It's
and
just
his other
like
brother are getting
how can voters
rich.
know
They're like
you
a
do not have
vacuum
any
cleaner.
foreign
They're
conflicts of
sucked up
Okay,
interest.
money every
President Trump,
place he
thank you.
goes.
We do
It's
need
not
to
true.
move
Does
on.
not answer
I
the
do
question.
wanna
You
ask
still have the businesses. You
Vice
still making the
President
money.
Biden
Like
about China.
shit
Let's
show.
talk about
Oh my
China
goodness.
more broadly. There
For the
have,
sake
of course,
of
President
what
Trump
is
has
left
said
of
that they should
humanity.
pay for
Goodbye,
not being
sir.
fully transparent in regards to the coronavirus. If you were president, would you make China pay? And please be specific. What would that look like?
What I'd make China do is play by the international rules, not like he has done. He has caused the deficit of China to go up, not down, with China, up, not down. We are making sure that in order to do business in China, you have to give all your intellectual property. You have to have a partner in China. It's 51%. We would not do that at all, number one. Number two, we're in a situation where China would have to play by the rules internationally as well. When I met with Xi, when I was still vice president, he said we're setting up air identification
Right,
zones.
let's not forget he's been
South
vice
China
president
Sea, you
before.
can't fly
He
through.
has
I
relationships.
said,
Like
we're going
he's
to fly through them. We
more
just flew
respected
B-52, B-1 bombers
globally
through it. We're not going to pay
than
attention.
the current
They have to
president.
play
It's just
by
like
the rules. And what's he do? He
Who are we gonna
embraces
be?
guys like
who are we
the
going
thugs
to be?
like
Is this mine?
North Korea and the Chinese president and Putin and others, and he pokes his finger in the eye of all of our friends, all of our allies. We make up we're 25% of the world's economy. We need to be having the rest of our friends with us saying to China, these are the rules. You play by them or you're going to pay the price for not paying by them economically. That's the way I will run it, and that's what we did in upholding steel tariffs and a range of other things when we were president and vice president.
All right, let's talk about North Korea.
Excuse me, no, I have to
No.
respond to that.
No,
Okay.
you don't
Very
get to
quickly,
tell
then
me
we're
Son
gonna
what
move on
walked
to
out with
North
$1.5 billion
Korea.
from China to
Not
manage after
true.
spending 10 minutes in office and being in Air Force Two. Number one. Number two, there's a very strong email talking about your family wanting to make $10
Emails,
million
he like
a year
literally
for
like
introduction.
like
President Trump,
This is
on
like all
China
you can
policy,
go.
though, what
No, but wait a
specifically are
minute.
you going to do? What specifically are you going to do to make China pay? You've said you're going
First
to
of
make them
all,
pay.
China is paying. They're paying billions and billions of dollars. I just gave
New
$28 billion.
sanctions? New sanctions?
I just gave $28 billion to our farmers. Because
Taxpayers'
China,
money.
it's what?
Taxpayers' money. Didn't
No,
come
no,
from
yeah,
China.
you know the taxpayers.
Oh, that's
it's called
real money.
China.
That's
China
not
paid
true.
$28 billion, and you know what they did to pay it, Joe? They devalued their currency, and they also paid up. And you know who got the money? Our farmers, our great farmers, because they were targeted. You never charged them anything. Also, I charged them 25% on dumped steel because they were killing our steel industry. We were not going to have a steel industry.
Okay.
And now we have a steel
Okay.
industry.
Vice President Biden, your response, please.
My response is, look, this isn't about. There's a reason why he's bringing up all this malarkey. There's a reason for it. He doesn't want to talk about the substantive issues. It's not
She
about his
get a
family
couple
and
little
my
like
family.
when she
It's about your family, and your family's hurting
is
badly.
like
If you're making less than, if you're a middle class family,
moving things on or
you're
asking the
getting
question,
hurt
like
badly
do a
right
little
now.
bit more of like
You're sitting at the kitchen
her.
table this morning deciding, well, we can't get new tires, they're bald because we have to wait another month or so. Or are we going to be able to pay the mortgage? Or who's going to tell her she can't go back to community college? They're the decisions
God,
you're
that
making.
logo.
In the middle class families like I grew up in Scranton and Claymont. They're in trouble. We should be talking about your families, but that's the last thing he wants to talk about.
I want
That is a
I want to
typical
talk about
statement.
North Korea.
Excuse me,
I
just
do
for
want
1
to turn
second,
to
please.
10 seconds, Mr. President.
That's
10
a typical
seconds.
political statement. Let's get off this China thing, and then he looks, the family, around the table, everything. Just a
Right.
typical politician when I see that.
Let's talk
I'm
about
not
North
a typical
Korea now.
politician.
Okay,
That's why I
President
got elected.
Let's talk
let's
about-
get off the subject of China. Let's talk around sitting around the table.
All right.
Come on, Joe, you can do better.
We're
know,
going to
they
talk about
wanted
North
to talk
Korea now.
about
President Trump,
American,
you've met with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un 3 times. You've talked about your
politics
beautiful
and
letters
not
with him. You've
for
touted the
him.
fact that there hasn't been a
And
war
then
or a long-range missile
his
test. And yet
people
North Korea
pressed
recently
them,
rolled out its biggest
like,
ever
no.
intercontinental ballistic missile
see that?
and continues to develop
No.
its nuclear arsenal.
So it was
Do you see
originally
that
supposed
as a
to be the
betrayal
debate
of
was
the
supposed to be on
relationship
foreign
we forged?
policy,
Just
and then
30
they
seconds
changed
here
it.
because we
Right.
need to get
And
on
they
to the
said
next
that
one.
it's
So
gonna
when
be
I
on,
met with
like,
Barack
race
Obama,
and, like,
we sat in the White
those
House.
types of like
Right at the
local
beginning,
affair,
had a
like,
great conversation.
social
Supposed to do
issues, that.
15 minutes, and it
And
was
then
well
Trump's
over an
campaign
hour.
was like, why the
He
fuck
said
you
the
just
biggest
want to
problem we
switch
have
that?
with North is
Because
North Korea.
Biden just had a
He
big scandal.
indicated we will be in a
There
war
was
with
a
North Korea.
foreign
Guess
type
what?
thing,
It would be a
and he was
nuclear
ready
war,
to,
and he
like,
does
go
have plenty
after
of
him for it, and
nuclear
you guys
capability.
changed the
In the
style of
meantime, I have a
debate,
very good
the topic,
relationship with him.
from
Different
foreign
kind of
to
a guy, but he
domestic,
probably thinks the
so that
same
it would
thing
be good
about
for
me.
him and
We have a
bad for
different
me.
kind of a relationship.
You
We
need
have
to
a
switch
very
it
good
back to what it was
relationship,
originally,
and there's no
now,
war.
so far,
And
this
you
whole thing
know,
has been,
about 2 months ago,
uh,
he
like
broke
foreign.
into a certain area. They said, "Oh, there's
Yeah.
going to be trouble." I said, "No, they're not, because he's not going to do that." And I was right. Look, instead of being in a war where millions of people, Seoul, you know, is 25 miles away, millions and millions, 32 million people in Seoul, millions of people would be
Okay.
dead right now.
President
We
Trump,
don't have a
that's
war,
30
and I have a
seconds.
good
Thank you.
relationship.
Vice President Biden, to you, North Korea conducted 4 nuclear tests under the Obama administration. Why do you think you would be able to rein in this persistent threat?
Because I make it clear, which means make it clear to China, they had to be part of the deal. Because here's the root. I made it clear as a spokesperson of the administration when I went to
Come
China
on, bro.
that they said, why are you moving your missile defense up so close? Why are you moving more forces here? Why are you continuing to do military maneuvers with South Korea? I said, because North Korea is a problem. And we're going to continue to do it so we can control them. We're going to make sure we can control them and make sure they cannot hurt us. And so if you
We need
want to do
pretzels
something
with-
about it,
from
step
Simple
up
Truth
and help. If
Organic.
not, it's going to continue. What
Made
has he
special
done?
$1.39.
He's legitimized North Korea. He's talked about his good
Remember, we
buddy,
got 5
who's
bags of
a
chips for
a thug, and he
Price
talks
too.
about how we're better off. And they have much more capable missiles, able to reach U.S. territory much more
Honestly,
easily than ever did before.
Let me
Why-
follow
why
up
do you think
with
you'd be able to
Vice
address North
President
Korea's
Biden.
threat?
You said
Because
you wouldn't
honestly,
meet with Kim
one of the
Jong-un
biggest things
without
we need there is,
preconditions. Are there any conditions
literally just
under
not
which
Trump in
you
office.
would meet with him?
On the condition
like
that
we
you
just
agree
need better
with
relationships with the world and everyone
foreign
and all that, and
governments,
we just need somebody
nuclear
respected.
capacity
Account.
to get the Korean Peninsula should be nuclear-free zone.
All right, let's move on to American
Kristen,
families.
they tried
Very
to meet
quickly,
with
10
him.
seconds,
They
President.
tried to meet with him. He wouldn't do it. He didn't like Obama. He didn't like him. He wouldn't do it.
Okay, I
know
got to
for a
give him a
fact they
chance to
tried.
respond to that
He
before we
wouldn't
move
do
on.
it. And
No
that's
way.
okay. You know what, North Korea, we're not in a war. We have a good relationship. You know,
Okay, bye,
people
Mike.
don't understand. Having a
God.
good
Come on.
President
relationship
Trump,
with
we have to
leaders
move
of other
on, 'cause
countries
we have
is
a lot of
good thing.
we have a lot of questions
Do it.
to get
Yes,
to.
not
Your
I
bad.
was
response.
saying we had a good relationship with Hitler before he, in fact, invaded
Aha.
Europe, the rest of Europe. Come on. The reason he would not meet with President Obama is because President Obama said, we're going to talk about denuclearization. We're not going to legitimize you, and we're going to continue to put stronger and stronger sanctions on you. That's why he wouldn't meet with us.
All right,
Bam.
And it didn't
move
happen.
on. Let's
Excuse
move on
me.
and talk
He
about
left
American
me a
families.
mess, Kristen.
President Trump. Okay, we do
They
need to
left
move on.
me a mess. North Korea was a mess.
Are we talking to Mike or not? We said we're going to do it.
First 2 or 3 months, there was a very dangerous period in my first 3 months before we sort of worked things out a little bit.
Okay.
There was a
I
very
need to see
they
this
left
one.
us
bye.
a mess, and Obama
Right.
would be, I think, the first to say it was the single biggest problem he thought that our country.
Okay, let's move on to American families and the economy. One of the issues that's most important to them is health care, as you both know. Today there was a key vote on a new Supreme Court Justice, Amy Coney Barrett, and health care is at the center of her confirmation fight. Over 20 million Americans get their health insurance through the Affordable Care Act. It's headed to the Supreme Court, and your administration, Mr. President, is advocating for the court to overturn it. If the Supreme Court does overturn that law, those 20 million Americans could lose their health insurance almost overnight. So what would you do if those people have their health insurance taken away? You have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
First of all, I've already done something that nobody thought was possible. Through the legislature, I terminated the individual mandate. That is the worst part of Obamacare, as we call it. The individual mandate where you have to pay a fortune for the privilege of not having to pay for bad health insurance. I terminated. It's gone. Now it's in court because Obamacare is no good. But then I made a decision. Run it as well as you can to my people, great people. Run it as well as you can. I could have gone the other route and made everybody.
Oh, you could have gone the other route. I could have done it where it's for the people.
Premiums are down. Everything's down. Here's the problem. No matter how well you run it, it's no good. What we'd like to do is terminate it. We have the individual mandate done. I don't know that it's going to work. If we don't win,
I don't know that it's going to work.
And we'll have Obamacare, but it'll be better run. But it no longer is Obamacare because without the individual mandate, it's much different. Pre-existing conditions will always stay. What I would like to do is a much better health care, much better, will always protect people with pre-existing. So I'd like to terminate Obamacare, come up with a brand new,
Come
beautiful
up
health
with
care.
a better,
The
beautiful,
Democrats
like, but
will
I'm
do it
like,
because
what?
there'll be tremendous pressure on them, and
what's
we might
the
even have the
plan?
House by that time. And I think we're going to win the House. Okay, you'll see, but I think we're going to win the House. But come up with a better health care, always protecting people with pre-existing conditions. And one thing very important, we have 180 million people out there that have great private health care, far more than we're talking about with Obamacare. Joe Biden is going to terminate all of those policies. These are people that love their health care, people that have been successful, middle-income people, been successful. They have 180 million plans, 180 million people, families, under what he wants to do, which will basically be socialized medicine. He won't even have a choice. They want to terminate 180 million plans. We have done an incredible job on health care, and we're going to do even better.
Okay,
Let me
Vice
respond.
President Biden, yes, this
I was
is
watching, but I
new
totally
healthcare
zoned
plan
out for a
also
second. I was like,
building
Jesus
on
Christ.
Obamacare.
Answer
So
the
my
damn
question is,
question.
what is your plan if the law is ruled unconstitutional by the Supreme Court? You have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
What I'm going to do is pass Obamacare with a public option, become Biden care. Public option is an option that says that if you, in fact, do not have the wherewithal to be, if you qualify for Medicaid and you do not have the wherewithal in your state to get Medicaid, you automatically enroll, providing competition for insurance companies. That's what's going to happen. Secondly, we're going to make sure we reduce the premiums and reduce drug prices by making sure that
Plan
competition
with bullet points
doesn't exist now by allowing Medicare to negotiate drug prices with
come through plan.
insurance companies. Thirdly,
We like a plan.
the idea that I want to eliminate private insurance. The reason why I had such a fight with 20 candidates for the nomination was I support private insurance. That's why I did not one single person with private insurance would lose their insurance under my plan, nor did they under Obamacare. They did not lose their insurance unless they chose they wanted to go to something else. Lastly, we're going to make sure we're in a situation that we actually protect pre-existing. There's no way he can protect pre-existing conditions. None, zero. You can't do it in the ether. He's been talking about this for a long time. He's never come up with a plan. I guess we're going to get the pre-existing condition plan the same time we get the infrastructure plan that we've been waiting since 17, 18, 19, and 20. The fact, I still have a few more minutes. I know you're getting anxious. The fact is that he's already cost the American people, because of his terrible handling of the COVID virus and the economic spillover, 10 million people have lost their private insurance. And he wants to take away 22 million more people who have it under Obamacare, and over 110 million people with pre-existing conditions. All the people from COVID are going to have pre-existing conditions. What are they going to do?
I have a follow-up for you, Vice President Biden. It relates to something that President Trump said. He's accusing you of wanting socialized medicine. What do you say to people who have concerns that your health care plan, which includes a government insurance option, takes the country one step closer to a health care system run entirely by the government?
Yeah,
say it's ridiculous. It's like saying
Trump.
that, we're the idea that the fact that there's a public option that people can choose, that makes it a socialist plan. Look, the difference between the president, I think healthcare is not a privilege, it's a right. Everyone should have the right to have affordable healthcare. And I am very proud of my plan. It's gotten endorsed by...
Is it so bad, or do people just think it's bad because your great-great-grandparents have told you that it's bad and it's been passed down to your family? Socialism bad.
This is something that's going to save people's lives. And this is going to give some people an opportunity.
Equality,
to have healthcare for their children. How many of you home are worried and rolling around in bed tonight wondering what in God's name you're going to do if you get sick? Because you've lost your home insurance, your health insurance, your company's gone on.
Do you have health insurance?
We have to provide health insurance for people at an affordable rate.
Are you rolling around in a bed at night wondering
He was
what happens
there
to you?
for 47 years.
So I have it from, are you sure?
He was now there as
I
vice
have mine
president
from,
for 8 years, and it's not like it was 25 years
Yeah, I
ago.
got mine after
it
I
was 3 3/4.
lost my job. I
It was
just got health
maybe
insurance
a
and then I
while
lost it.
ago, right? Less than 4 years ago. He didn't do anything. He didn't do it.
Because I've
He
got
wants
mine's definitely
socialized
state.
medicine, and it's not
state
that he
federal
wants it.
insurance for
His
sure.
vice president, I mean, she is more liberal than Bernie Sanders and wants it even more. Bernie Sanders wants it. The Democrats want it. You're going to have socialized medicine, just like he went with fracking. We're not going to have fracking. We're going to stop fracking. We're going to stop fracking. Then he goes to Pennsylvania after he gets a nomination, where he got very lucky to get it. And he goes to Pennsylvania and he says, oh, we're going to have fracking. And you never ask that question. And by the way, so far, I respect very much the way you're handling this, I have to say.
By the way,
But somebody should ask the question.
you can ask...
He goes for a year. There will be
We
no
have
fracking.
a number of topics.
No,
we're
no,
gonna
but
get
that's a
to.
big-
We-
that's a
and
big
and
question.
We're going to get to. We're going to get to.
It's the same thing with socialized
I have to
medicine.
respond.
Vice President, your response, please.
My response is people deserve to have affordable health care, period. Period, period, period. And the Biden care proposal will, in fact, provide for that affordable health care, lower premiums. What we're going to do is going to cost some money. It's going to cost over $750 billion over 10 years to do it. And they're going to have lower premiums. You can buy into the better plans, the cheaper plans, lower your premiums, deal with unexpected billing, and have your drug prices drop significantly. He keeps talking about it. He hasn't done a thing for anybody on health care. Not a thing.
Interesting, when he
Very quickly,
says,
then I want to talk
when
about
he
what's
says
happening on
public option,
Capitol Hill.
he's talking about socialized medicine. And when he, and health
He's
care.
just going
When
to
he
the
talks
words.
about
He's just going
public
to the
option,
words.
he's
Literally,
talking about destroying your Medicare.
word social. When you talk about medicine, talk about health insurance, just
and this
just
whole
say
country will
socialism,
go
socialism,
down. You know,
socialism,
Bernie Sanders
socialism.
tried
Country will go down.
and his
Socialism, everything will be
tried to
horrible.
say his governor
This
was a
whole
very
country
liberal
will
governor.
go
They want to
down.
make it work.
Okay, let's
It
let
was
Vice President
impossible
Biden
to work.
respond.
It doesn't
Vice
work.
President
He's
Biden,
a very
your response.
confused guy. He thinks he's running against somebody else. He's running against Joe Biden. I beat all those other people because I disagreed with them. Joe Biden he's running against. And the
Yeah.
idea that we're in a situation...
I mean,
that
yeah,
we
Trump is trying to
destroy Medicare,
deflect there.
This is
I mean,
the guy-
Democrats aren't going to like it. There's going to be definitely people that say, like, that's a
Well,
line that,
yeah,
that
Social
Republicans
Security.
pull out as Joe
In
Biden said,
fact,
I
it
beat all the
continues to-
other people
Yeah,
because I
plan to
disagreed with them.
withhold The tax on
Boy.
Social Security. Social Security will be bankrupt by 2023 with no
Beat those
way
people
to
everyone
make up.
rallied around.
This is the guy who's tried to cut Medicare. So no, I mean, the idea that Donald Trump is lecturing me on Social Security and Medicare? Come on.
He tried to get
10
rid of.
seconds,
He
Mr.
tried to
President,
hurt
and then I
Social
have to go to
Security
another
years
question.
ago. Years
What
ago.
are we talking about?
Go back and look at the
He-
records. He tried to hurt Social Security years ago.
All
One
right,
thing,
let's move
but
on.
this
I'm
is
going
the
to move
guy
on.
that
Let
when
me,
they
Mr.
announced,
President, I have to
last
move
week,
on to the next question.
they said
or
the
else
stock
we're not
market
gonna
will
have time to
boom
talk about it.
if I'm elected. If he's elected,
Stock
the
market
stock
will
market
boom
will
if I
crash.
elect him.
Okay, let's
biggest
move on to the
analysts are
next
saying that.
question
Let me respond.
very quickly.
Look, the idea that the stock market is booming is his only measure of what's happening. Where I come from in Scranton and Claymont, the people
That's
don't
true.
live off of the stock market. Just in the last
It's
three
true.
three
It's
years
true.
during this
It's true.
crisis,
I mean, there
they just
are
said
Thermal
the
layup.
billionaires in this
Yeah.
country made, according to the Wall Street,
billionaires are
$700
there are
billion more dollars.
more like
700
millions
billion
more
more
people, regular
because
people
that's his
involved
only
now,
measure.
but
What happens to the
still such a
ordinary
very
people
small
out there?
portion which is there.
What happens to them?
Let's talk about what's happening on
401ks,
Capitol
Stocks
Hill.
for
We're
beginners.
gonna
Kristen,
move on, gentlemen.
401ks are through the roof.
You don't
We're
just
gonna
get
move
to
on.
Are
Right.
through the
He
roof.
keeps going
All
back
right.
and
He
forth
doesn't
anytime
come
Joe
from
Biden gets a
Scranton.
like
That's like one
another
of
word.
He lived there for a short
We're
period
gonna-
of time before he
Okay,
even knew
we're
it.
gonna move
Cut,
on to
And
the
he
Mike.
next
left. And the
question.
people of Pennsylvania
Let me
will
move
show
on
you
to my
that.
next question,
They
gentlemen.
understand.
As of tonight, more than 12 million people are out of work, and as of tonight, 8 million more Americans have fallen into poverty, and more families are going hungry every day. Those hit hardest are women and people of color. They see Washington fighting over a relief bill. Mr. President, why haven't you been able to get them the help they need? 30 seconds here.
Because Nancy Pelosi doesn't want to approve it. I do.
But you're the president.
I do, but I still have to get. Unfortunately, that's one of the reasons I think we're going to take over the House because of her. Nancy Pelosi doesn't want to approve anything because she'd love to have some victories on a date called November 3rd. Nancy Pelosi does not want to approve it. We are ready, willing, and able to do something. Don't forget, we've already approved 3 plans, and it's gone through, including the Democrats, in all fairness. This one she doesn't want. It's near the election because she thinks it helps her politically. I think it hurts her politically.
All right,
By the
Mr.
way,
Vice President,
you know,
look.
the Republican leader in the
Oh, they had the
United
mic
States
off.
Senate said he can't pass it. He will not be able to
His
pass it.
mic?
He does not have Republican votes.
Seems like
Why
it.
isn't he talking to his Republican friends?
Let me follow up with you, Vice
If
President
we made a
Biden,
deal, the
because
Republicans
let me
will
ask
pass it.
Vice President Biden a question. You are the leader of the Democratic Party. Why have you not pushed the Democrats to get a deal for the American people?
Well, I have, and they have pushed it. Look, they passed this act all the way back in the beginning of the summer. This is like it's not new. It's been out there. This HEROES Act has been sitting there. And look at what's happening. When I was in charge of the Recovery Act with $800 billion, I was able to get $145 billion to local communities that have to balance their budgets and states that have to balance their budgets, so then have to fire firefighters, teachers, first responders, law enforcement officers, so they can keep their cities and counties running. He will not support that. They have not done a thing for them. And Mitch McConnell said, let them go bankrupt. Let them go bankrupt. Come on. What's the matter
The
with
bill
these
that was
guys?
passed in the House was a bailout
Let him go
of
bankrupt.
badly run, high crime Democrats.
Which is right, because
all run
just
by
file Chapter
Democrat
11.
cities and states. It was a way of getting a lot of money, billions and
That's how he's.
billions.
I mean,
of
how
dollars
he's.
to
That's
these
those are
cities.
loopholes.
It was
You
also a
know,
way of
how
getting a
he's
lot of
gotten
money
away with it.
from
Like, but
our people's pockets
everyone does
to
it. Like,
people that come into our country illegally.
Here
We
we
were
go.
going to take care of everything for them. And what that
You're
does,
into
and
illegal
I'd love to
immigrants?
do that,
Okay.
I'd love to help them, but what that does, everybody all over the world will start pouring into our country. We can't do it. This was a way of taking care of them. This was a way of spending on things that had nothing to do with COVID, as per your question. But it was really a big bailout for badly
60
run
minutes or 90
Democrat
minutes?
cities and states.
All right,
By
I
the way,
wanna-
if I get elected, I'm not going to. I'm running as a proud Democrat, but I'm going to be an American president. I don't see red states and blue states. What I see is American, United States. And folks, every single state out there finds themselves in trouble. They're going to start laying off, whether they're red or blue, cops, firefighters, first responders, because teachers, because they have to balance their budget. And the founders were smart. They allowed the federal government to deficit spend to compensate for the United States of America.
I want to talk about the minimum wage, gentlemen. Mr. Vice President, we are talking a lot about struggling small businesses
Yes.
and business owners these days. Do you think this is the right time to ask them to raise the minimum wage? You, of course, support a $15 federal minimum
I
wage.
do, because I think one of the things we're going to have to do is we're going to have to bail them out too. We should
Here
be
we go.
bailing them out now, those small businesses. You got 1 in 6 of them going under. They're not going to be able to make it back. They passed a
6.
a
Yeah, more than
package
100
that
downtown.
allows
Oh, we've
us
talked about
to
that,
be
right?
able to
More than
go
100 in downtown.
PPP.
Yeah.
Money is supposed to go to help them do everything from organize how they can deal with their businesses being open
Too late
safely.
for that shit now. That needed to
Schools,
happen
how
6
they
months
can
ago.
make classrooms smaller, how they can hire more teachers.
Well,
how
oh,
they
you
can
mean
have
like
Everything's
ventilation.
open,
second
it's too
stimulus
late.
bill?
They
Can't go
need the
back.
help.
Right.
Businesses as well as the schools need the help. But these guys will not help them. It's not giving them any of the money.
We are going to move on
Excuse
to
me, one
immigration,
thing very
but I
quickly.
want
He
to
said
get
we
your
have to help
reaction.
our
Minimum
small
wage should
businesses
go up
by
in,
raising the minimum wage. That's not helping.
Yes,
I
it
think
is.
it should be a state option.
I mean, it is minimum wage. Yeah, you gotta work in these places. You gotta work in COVID. You've gotta work. Like you're putting your life at risk. What do you mean minimum wage? You
said
should be
there
getting
has to
hazard
It's
pay.
very important. We have to help our small businesses.
You
How
said
are you helping your small businesses when you're forcing wages? What's going to happen, and what's been proven to happen, is when
Coming
you
from the
do
person
that,
who
these
doesn't
small
like to pay
businesses
people.
fire many of their employees.
you said very
Not true,
recently you would
by the way.
consider raising the federal minimum
it.
wage to $15
Say
an
it.
hour. You said recently you would consider raising the federal minimum wage to
What I
$15 an
really
hour. Is
like,
that still the case?
and I would consider it to an extent, but
In a
what I
second
really
administration?
like, in a second administration, but not to a level that's going to put all these businesses out of business. It should be a state option. Look, I lived in
Everyone's no.
different places. I know different places.
It'll be a state
They're all
option,
different.
right? That means
Some
no.
places, $15 is not so bad. In other places, other states, $15 would
Okay,
be
President
ruinous.
Trump, thank you.
No-
Quick
no
response,
one
Vice
should
President
work.
Biden.
2 jobs, 1 job, be below poverty. People are making $6, $7, $8 an hour. These first responders, we all clap for as they come down the street because they've allowed us to make it. What's happening? They deserve a minimum wage of $15. Anything below that puts you below the poverty level. And there is no evidence that when you raise the minimum wage, businesses go out of business. That is simply not true.
No,
We're going to
business
talk
don't go out
about
of business, but
immigration. We're going
housing
to talk about
turns
immigration
into a
now,
mess if you don't have
gentlemen.
rent control.
And we're going to talk about families within this context. Mr.
Watching it
President,
happen
your
in multiple
administration
cities, that's what
separated children from their parents at the border, at least
Mm.
4,000 kids. You've since reversed your
4,000
zero-tolerance
kids.
policy, but the United States can't locate the parents of more than 500 children. So how will these families ever be reunited?
Did you not know that?
Children.
You hadn't heard that?
were here
Yeah. Oh yeah. More than
by
500.
Coyotes and lots of bad people, cartels, and they're
Here we
brought
go.
in, and they
Talking
used to
Mexicans,
use them to
coyotes,
get into our
cartels,
country.
and
We
drugs,
now
right?
have as strong a border as we've ever had. We're over 400 miles of brand new wall.
China
You see the
disease, it's
numbers,
this.
and we let people in, but they
Mexicans
have to come
overtell
in legally,
people.
and they come in through
But
America.
how will you
let
reunite
me
these
just tell
kids
you,
with their
let me
families?
just
How
tell you,
will
I
you
built cages.
reunite the children?
I built the cages, and then they had a picture in a certain newspaper. There was a picture of these horrible cages, and they said, "Look at these cages. President Trump built them." And then it was determined they were built in 2014. That was him.
Do you
They
have a
built
plan to
cages.
reunite the kids?
Yes,
with
we're
their
working on
families?
it we're trying very hard. But a lot of these kids come out without the parents. They come over through cartels and through coyotes and through gangs.
Vice President Biden, let me bring you into this
525.
conversation. Quick response and then another question to you.
These 500 plus kids came with parents. They separated them at the border to make it a disincentive to come to begin with. They real tough. We're really strong. And guess what? They cannot. It's not coyotes
Right,
didn't
and
bring them over.
if you-
Their parents were with them.
parents got
They got separated from their parents, and it makes us a laughing stock and violates every notion of who we are as a nation.
Parents just.
Let me ask you a follow-up
Kristen,
question.
they did it. We changed the policy.
Your response
They
to
did
that?
it. We changed.
did not.
They built the
separate
cages.
They
Who built the cages,
let's,
Joe?
let's talk about what
Who
we're
built the
talking about.
cages,
Let's
Joe?
talk about what we're talking about. What happened? Parents were ripped. Their kids were ripped from their arms and separated, and now they cannot find over 500 sets of those parents, and those kids are alone, nowhere to go, nowhere to go.
That's fucking.
It's criminal. It's
That in
criminal.
itself.
Let me ask
Kristen,
you
I will
about
say
it.
this. They
10
went down.
seconds
We
and then
brought
I need to ask
reporters,
you.
everything. They are so well taken care of. They're in facilities that were so clean.
But some of
Facilities.
them-
Facilities. They're in facilities. Like
Who built the cages? I'd
Yeah.
like to ask if that.
I
Who
can't.
built the cages?
Let me ask
And
about
you're
your immigration
using the
policy,
key. I
Mr.
don't
Vice
get,
President.
like-
The Obama
and like the
administration
fact that we're
did
even
so.
calling the fact that we're even
Protected
calling them
key
cages.
funds
It's just one of like
during
yes,
the
like we need to
administration.
like
Also presided over
we just
records
like
and
I
we
put
budget
can
them in
build
there,
the
but
cage.
you
You
built it.
like
You
right?
built
I put it like they're never meant for like
So
kids
why
and
should we
separating and like this whole ridiculous like that's not.
Made a mistake. It took too long to get it right. It took too long to get it right. I'll be president of the United States, not vice president of the United States. And the fact is, I've made it very clear.
I'll be
Within
president,
100
not
days,
vice
I'm going to
president.
send to the United States Congress a pathway to citizenship for over 11 million undocumented people. And all of those
Yes.
so-called dreamers,
Yes.
DACA kids, they're going to be immediately certified again to be able to stay in this country and put on a path to citizenship.
There will be some Republicans that will
idea
not like
that
this.
They are being sent home by this guy, and they want to do
But they
that,
already don't.
is they're going to a country they've never seen before. I can imagine you're 5 years old.
But
your
they're also
parents are
usually
taking you
people that live in a
across
place with a lot of those people
the Rio
because
Grande
it used to be
River,
the land
and
of those
it's-
people.
and it's illegal. And you say, "Oh no, Mom, leave me here. I'm not going to go with you." They've been here. Many of them are model citizens. Over 20,000 of them are first responders out there taking care of people during this crisis. We owe them. We owe them.
Matt, he didn't know that.
President-
Kristen, he had 8 years to do what he said he was going to do. And I've changed
We did.
without having a specific. We got rid of catch and release.
Without having a
We got rid of
specific,
lot
basically
of
without having a
horrible
plan,
things
we've-
that they put in and that they lived with. But he had 8 years he was vice president. He did nothing except build cages to keep children in.
Vice President
Did
Biden,
nothing.
response.
In 8 years.
Catch and
but-
release. You know what he's talking about there? If in fact you had a family came across and they were arrested, they in fact were given a date to show up for their hearing. They were released. And guess what? They showed up for a hearing. And this is the first president in the history of the United States of America that anybody seeking asylum has to do it in another country. That's never happened before in America.
Thank
That's
you.
never happened before in America. You come to the United
Asylum.
States and you make your
Yes,
case
that's the
that I
point of
seek asylum
asylum.
based on the following premise: why I deserve it under American
You
law.
just eating the top?
They're sitting in squalor on the other side of the
I'm
river.
gonna freak out, but
President
Oh, is that
Trump,
the-
your
is that-
response.
that's the
30
edible?
seconds, and then we'll
It
move
just shows that he has no understanding
Oh,
of
shit.
immigration
Do you
and
mind?
the laws.
here, have a
Catch
piece
and
of the
release
top.
is a disaster.
Oh,
A
this is mostly
murderer
on the
would
top?
come in.
No, I don't.
A
I think it's in the
rapist
whole
would
thing.
come in.
Yeah,
A very
right.
bad
Uh-oh,
person
murder,
would come
rapist.
in. We would take their name.
Just like
We
sugar.
have to release them
Wow.
into our
Is that
country.
too much? How much
And
is in
then
the
you
thing?
say
I don't
they
know.
come back.
The little piece
Less
earlier,
than
and I go,
1%
fine, but
of
every
the
time I do
people
that, then I'm
come
like,
back. We
Right.
have to send
Right.
ICE out
Right.
and Border Patrol out to find them. We would say,
Probably
come
time to have
back
an
in
edible.
2 years, 3 years.
Oh,
We're
I
going to
think-
give you a
Woo!
court case. You need Perry Mason. We're going to give you a court case. When you say they come back, they don't come back, Joe.
Yeah.
They never come back. Only the really, I hate to say this, but those with
Hate
the
to say
lowest
what?
IQ, they might come back.
The one with the
President
lowest
Biden,
IQ, the
your
people with the
response.
lowest IQ come back from the fucking court hearing?
You don't know the law, Joe.
Vice President Biden, your response.
Know the law, what he's telling you. is
I'm
so-
glad I have a cheap TV and that's my
They
computer
don't
because I
come back.
woo!
But we don't have to
The
worry
next
about it 'cause they
section.
terminated
Wow.
it, so we don't have to worry about it
Let's
anymore.
move on to the next
You have
section.
525
You
kids.
hate to
not
say it
enrolled
too.
in
Hate to say it. Like you know it. See, that's the thing is you know it.
Let's talk
And he
about
just
our
said it.
next
Okay,
section,
let's move
which
on.
is
Like, yeah.
race in America. And I want to talk about the way Black and Brown
Race.
Americans experience
Trump is
race
like,
in this country.
Race in America
Part of
right
that
after that.
experience is something
Like we're
called
in
the
race
tribe.
already.
It happens regardless of class and income. Parents who feel they have no choice but to prepare their children for the chance that they could be targeted,
Trump is
including
like,
by
what?
the police, for no reason other than the color of their skin. Mr. Vice President, in the next 2 minutes, I want you to speak directly to these families. Do you understand why these parents fear for their children?
I do. You know, my daughter is a social worker, and she's written a lot about this. Has a graduate degree from the University of Pennsylvania in social work. And you know, one of the reasons why I ended up working on the east side of Wilmington, Delaware, which is 90% African American, was to learn more about
Wilmington, Delaware.
What I never had to tell my daughter
A lot of people
if
know
she's
it.
pulled over.
I'm thinking about
make
moving
sure
there.
she
It's on my
puts
list.
a traffic
It's
stop.
also
Put both hands on
rated
top of
50
the
for
wheel
nightlife.
and don't reach for the glove box because someone may shoot you. But a black parent, no matter how wealthy or how poor they are, has to teach their child when you're walking down the street, don't have a hoodie on when you go across the street. Making sure that you, in fact, if you get pulled over, yes, sir, no, sir, hands on top of the wheel, because you are, in fact, the victim, whether you're a person making child of a $300,000 a year person or someone who's on food stamps. The fact of the matter is, there is institutional racism in America. And we have always said, we've never
There
lived up to
is
it. We hold these truths to be
institutionalized
self-evident.
racism.
All
Never
men and
lived
women are
up to
created
it.
equal. Guess what? We have never, ever lived up to it. We've always constantly been moving the needle further and further to inclusion, not exclusion. This is the first president to come along and says, that's the end of that. We're not going to do that anymore. We have to provide for
Do you understand
economic
why African
opportunity,
American parents
better
are
education,
feel for their children?
better health care, better access to schooling, better
One
access
person
to
can answer.
opportunity to borrow money to start businesses.
Let's just
All the things we can do, and I've
look
laid
at all
out a
the
clear plan
declarations
as to
Trump
how to do
put out,
those
about,
things.
even like
Just
on
to give
Columbus
people a
Day.
shot. It's about accumulating the ability to have wealth
What I
as
wanna
well
hear
as
is
it
somebody
is
say,
to be free from violence.
speak on the videos
President
of all
Trump,
these
same
people that are
question
just
to you, and
beating
let
the
me
shit
remind
out
you
of
Oh,
of the
like,
question. I
oh.
would like you
Because
to
it's great
speak
to say, like, we're
directly
gonna
to these
invest in
families. Do you
but, like,
understand
no
why
one
these
is gonna
parents fear for
actually
their children?
say,
Yes,
like,
I
no
do.
one's gonna call out,
And
like,
again,
there's cops.
he's been in
Dude,
government
last week
47
just
years. He
punched
never
some
did a
Right.
thing except
pepper
in
sprayed people today. What
1994
about
Right.
that?
when he did such harm to the black community.
Yeah.
And
Like,
they
make
were
them
called,
actually
and he called them super predators.
comment on
And
those
he said that.
specifically.
We're
He
still
said
we're
it,
just- they're
super
gonna pretend that
predators.
didn't happen. We're just gonna
And they
that's
have
fake.
never lived
What?
that down.
They're just gonna, like, move
1994,
past it,
your
like,
crime
move it,
bill,
like,
the super predators. Nobody has done more for the black community than Donald Trump. And if you
Ah!
look,
Nobody
with
has
the
done more for the
exception
black
of
community than
Abraham
Donald Trump.
Lincoln, possibly
Okay.
exception, but the exception of
Okay.
Abraham Lincoln, nobody has done what I've
Lincoln.
done. Criminal justice reform, Obama and Joe didn't do it. I don't even think they tried because they had no chance at doing it. They might have wanted to do it, but if you had to see the arms I had to twist to get that done, it was not a pretty picture. And
That
everybody
makes me
knows it,
want some.
including some very liberal people that cried in my office. They cried in the
Liberal
Oval
people
Office.
that cried
2
in my
weeks later,
office.
they're out saying, gee, we have to defeat him. Criminal justice reform, prison reform, opportunity zones with Tim Scott, a great senator from South Carolina. He came in with this incredible idea for opportunity zones. It's one of the most successful programs. People don't talk about it. Tremendous investment is being made. Biggest beneficiary, the black and Hispanic communities, and then historically black colleges and universities. After 3 years of coming to the office, I love some of those guys. They were great. They came into the office and they said, I said, what are you doing? After 3 years, I said, why do you keep coming back? Because we have no funding. I said, you don't have to come back every year. We have to come back. Because President Obama would never give them long-term funding. And I did. 10-year long-term funding, and I gave them more money than they asked for because they said, I think you need more. And I said, the only bad part about this is I may never see you again because I got very friendly with them. And they like me and I like them. But I saved colleges and universities.
Okay, and we're going to talk about both of your records, but your response to that, Vice
My
President.
response to that is I
Right.
never ever said what he accused me of saying. The fact of the matter is, in 2000, though, after the crime bill had been in the law for a while, this is the guy who said the problem with the crime bill, there's not enough people in jail. There's not enough people in jail. And go on my website, get the quote.
Right, if we want to do the back and
Not
forth.
enough people. He talked about marauding gangs, young gangs, and the people who are going to maraud our
And
cities.
he's on back to their
This is a
cartel.
guy
Like,
who in the Central Park
but-
five innocent black kids. He continued to push
Yeah.
for making sure
Oh my
that
God.
they
Like all
got
of
the death penalty. None of
But-
them were guilty of what the crimes they
Yeah,
were
what about
suggested. Look, and talk about he
there's something for the black community. It's not the
He
black
did,
community
in fact,
around him
but
at all.
20 people. He commuted 20 people sentences. We commuted over 1,000 people sentences. Over 1,000. The very law he's talking about is a law that, in fact, initiated by Barack Obama. And secondly, we're in a situation here where the federal prison system was reduced by 38,000 people under our administration. And one of these things we should be doing, there should be no minimum mandatories in the law. That's why I'm offering $20 billion to states to change their state laws to eliminate minimum mandatories and set up drug courts. No one should be going to jail because they have a drug problem. They should be going to rehabilitation,
Thank
not
you.
to jail. We should fundamentally change the system, and that's what
Fundamentally changed.
Why didn't he do it 4 years ago? Why didn't you do that 4 years ago, even less than that? Why didn't you
I
do it?
am
You were
not-
vice president. You keep talking about all these things you're going to do and you're going to do this, but you were there just a short time ago and you guys did nothing.
We
You know, Joe, I
Did
ran
nothing.
because
Oh my
of you.
God.
They made
I
all
ran
that.
because of Barack Obama, because you did a poor job. If I thought you did a good job, I would have never run. I would have never run. I ran because of you. I'm looking at you now. You're a politician. I ran because of you.
All right, Vice President Biden, your response to that, and then I do have some
Yeah.
questions for both of you.
Well, I'll tell you what, I hope he does look at me because what's happening here is you know who I am, you know who he is, you know his character, you know my character, you know our reputations for honor and telling the truth. I am anxious to have this race. I am anxious to see this take place. The character of the country is on the ballot. our characters on the ballot. Look at us closely.
Let me ask some follow-up.
Excuse me.
Please respond,
If
and then we're
this
going to have
stuff
follow-up
is true
questions.
about Russia, Ukraine, China, other countries.
About yourself, right?
If this is true, then he's a corrupt politician.
All right.
So don't give me the stuff about how you're this innocent
agree.
baby. Joe, they're calling you a corrupt politician.
Nobody
They're
calling
President
the
me.
Trump, I
laptop
want to
from
stay
hell.
on the issue of
Excuse me,
race. We're
take a look
talking
at
about
the
the issue.
laptop from hell.
President Trump, we're
Nobody-
talking about race right now, and I do want to stay
Yeah,
on the issue
how
of
does it
race.
get to that?
President Trump,
And I
you've
have to
just
respond to that.
Please.
Because look,
very
there
quickly.
are 50 former national intelligence folks who said that what he's accusing me of is a Russian plan. They have said that this has all the five former heads of the CIA, both parties, say what he's saying is a bunch of garbage. Nobody believes it except his and his good friend Rudy Giuliani.
You mean the laptop is now another Russia hoax?
And
You
that's
gotta be-
exactly what.
Is this
That's
where you're
exactly what.
This is
so,
where he's going. The
That-
laptop is Russia,
Yeah.
Gentlemen,
Russia.
I want to stay on the issue of race.
You
okay?
have to be kidding. Here we
Mr.
go again
President,
with Russia.
We're going to continue
Boy,
on the
boy.
issue of race. Mr. President,
believe
you've
that one.
described the Black Lives Matter movement as a symbol of hate. You've shared a video of a man chanting white power to millions of your supporters. You've said that black professional athletes exercising their First Amendment rights should be fired. What do you say to Americans who say that kind of language from a president is
Seriously,
contributing
what
to a
do you
climate of
say?
hate and racial strife?
Well, you have to understand, the first time I ever heard of Black Lives Matter, they were chanting pigs in a blanket, talking about police. Pigs, talking about our police. Pigs in a blanket, fry them like bacon. I said, that's a horrible thing. And they were marching down the street. And that was my first
Calling cops
glimpse of
pigs
Black
is
Lives
a
Matter. I
horrible
thought it
thing,
was a
but the
terrible
police
thing.
officers that
As far
shoot
as
people.
my relationships with all people, I think I have great relationships with all people. I am the least racist person in this room.
But what do you say to Americans who are concerned by that rhetoric?
I don't
Least
know. I
racist
don't know
person's
what to
room while he's
say.
talking to a
Criminal
woman of color.
justice reform,
Literally
Okay.
prison reform and opportunity zones. I took care of black colleges and universities. I don't know what to say. They can say anything. I mean, they can say anything. It makes me sad because I am the least racist person. I can't even see the audience because it's so dark. But I don't care who's in the audience. I'm the least racist person in this room.
Okay, Vice President Biden,
It's
let
the
me
audience
ask you
because it's so
very
dark.
quickly, and then I have a follow-up question for you.
What the
Abraham
fuck?
Lincoln here is one of the most racist presidents we've had in modern history. He pours
Uh.
fuel on every single racist fire. Every single one. Started off his
That
campaign
part.
coming down the escalator saying he's going to get rid of those Mexican rapists. He's banned Muslims because they're Muslims. He has moved around and made everything worse across the board. He says about the poor boys. Last time we were on stage here, he said, I told him to stand down
Proud Boys, but
and
still.
stand ready. Come on. This guy is a dog whistle about as big as a foghorn.
President Trump, I'm going to give you 10 seconds to respond, and then I have a
No,
follow-up.
he made a reference to Abraham Lincoln. Where did that come in? I mean,
You said
where
you're
did that-
Abraham
No,
Lincoln.
where did that? No.
You
I
said
said not since Abraham Lincoln has anybody done what I've done for the black community.
and I'm
I
saying
didn't say I'm Abraham Lincoln. I said not
Yeah,
since
joke.
Abraham Lincoln
It's a joke.
has anybody done what I've done for the black community. Now, you have done nothing other than the crime
To
bill.
think that you've done more for the black community than Obama
Tens of
is
thousands
just
of black
like
men,
insane.
mostly in jail.
Such
All
a
right, let me,
white
let me, let me
They
ask
remember
Vice
it because
President
when you
Biden
look at what's
question
happening with the voting right
patriarchy
now,
complex.
Let me ask
they
Vice
remember
President
they
Biden.
treated them
about
very, very badly.
the-
Just
the-
take a look at what's happening out there.
Vice President Biden, let me give you a chance to respond within this context. Crime
Okay.
bills that you supported in the 80s and 90s contributed to the incarceration of tens of thousands of young black men who had small amounts of drugs in their possession.
Good
Their
question.
sons,
Great
their brothers,
question.
their fathers, their uncles, whose families are still to this day, some of them suffering the consequences. So speak to those families. Why should they vote for you?
one of the things is that in the 80s, we passed 100%, all 100 senators voted for it, a bill on drugs and how to deal with drugs. It was a mistake. I've been trying to change the since then, particularly the portion
And
on
all
cocaine.
100 people.
That's why I've been arguing that, in fact, we should not send anyone to jail for a pure drug offense. They should be going into treatment across the board. That's what we should be spending money. That's why I set up drug courts, which were never funded by our Republican friends. They should not be going to jail for a drug or an alcohol problem. They
Should not
going
be
into
going to
treatment.
jail.
Treatment.
Should go to
That's what we've been
treatment.
trying to do. That's what I'm going to get done because I think maybe
It's like
the
a
American
Green
people
Party.
have now seen
Just
that
not
in fact it was a
really
mistake
so
to
much.
pass those laws.
It would change. I mean,
But
part of the
we're not in the
foundation.
crime.
Like you literally.
But why didn't he get it done? See, it's all talk, no action with these politicians. Why didn't he get it done? That's what I'm going to do when I become president. You were vice president along with Obama as your president, your leader, for 8 years. Why didn't you get it done? You had 8 years to get it done. Now you're saying you're going to get it done because you're all talk and no action, Jim.
We got a
Your
lot of it
response.
done. We released
You didn't get
38,000. We
anything
got
done.
38,000 prisoners left from.
You got
out-
nothing done.
38,000 prisoners were released from federal prison. There were over 1,000 people who were given clemency. In fact, we're the ones that put in the legislation saying we could look at pattern and practice of police departments and what they were doing, how they were conducting themselves. I could go on, but we began the process. We lost an election. That's why I'm running to win back that election and change his terrible policy.
I
Quick
just
response,
asked.
and then we're
I
gonna
just
move
asked
on
one
to climate
question.
change.
Why didn't you do it in the 8 years, a short time
He said,
ago?
I
He
said-
Why
literally
didn't
just
you do it?
answered
You
the
just said,
question.
I'm going to do that. I'm going to do this. You put tens
Because-
of thousands of mostly black young men in prison. Now you're saying you're going to undo that. Why didn't you get it done? You had 8 years with Obama.
He said it was a mistake.
You know why,
because-
Joe? Because you're all talk and no action.
All right, Vice President
Because
Biden, and
of
then
that-
we're going to move on to the next section.
We had a Republican Congress. That's the answer.
Well, you
Okay.
got to talk them into it, Joe.
All
Sometimes
right.
you got to talk them into it.
We're going to move on to our next section,
Like I
which
did with
is
criminal
climate
justice
change.
reform.
Even in answer to the
I
question,
gotta
you're
talk
still
Democrats
fucking. You
into it.
Gentlemen,
can't just
we're
have the
running-
last
we're
word.
running out of time, so we got to get on to
Okay.
climate change, please. You both have very different visions
Ugh.
of climate change. President Trump, you say that environmental regulations have hurt jobs in the energy sector. Vice President Biden, you have said you see addressing climate change as an opportunity to create new jobs. For each of you, how would you both combat climate change and support job growth at the same time? Starting with you, President Trump, you have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
So we have the Trillion Trees program. We have so many different programs. I do love the environment, but what I want is the cleanest, crystal clear water, the
Oh my
cleanest
God.
air.
Do you?
We
Do
have
you
the
want the
best,
cleanest water?
lowest number in carbon emissions, which is a big standard that I notice Obama goes with all the time. Not Joe. I haven't heard Joe use the term because I'm not sure he knows what it represents or means, but I have heard
What?
Obama use it. And we have the best carbon emission numbers that we've had in 35 years under this administration. We are working so well with industry, but here's what we can't do. Look at China, how filthy it is. Look at Russia. Look at India. It's filthy. The air is filthy. The Paris Accord, I took us out because we were going to have to spend trillions of dollars and we were treated very unfairly. When they put us in there, they did us a great disservice. They were going to take away our businesses. I will not sacrifice tens of millions
zoned
of
out for a
jobs,
second here.
thousands and thousands of companies.
Had me thinking
Because
about
of
like
The Paris
walking
Accord.
Phoenix.
It was so unfair. China doesn't kick in until 2030. Russia goes back to a low standard, and we kicked in right away. It would have destroyed our businesses. So, you ready? We
China
have
doesn't
done
kick
an
in
incredible
until
job
2030.
environmentally.
There's still
We
no
have the
like talking about
cleanest air,
environmental. There's still no
cleanest water,
plans.
and
Like
the best
we've done an
carbon
incredible
emission
job,
standards that
and
we've
we're gonna
seen
keep
in
doing
many,
well.
many
Like
years.
I don't.
Vice President
And we
Biden.
haven't destroyed our industries.
Vice President Biden, 2 minutes to you, uninterrupted.
Climate change, climate warming, global warming is an existential threat to humanity. We have a moral obligation to deal with it. And we're told by all the leading scientists in the world we don't have much time. We're going to pass the point of no return within the next 8 to 10 years. 4 more years of this man eliminating all the regulations that were put in by us to clean up the climate.
That's
11 o'clock
how-
hour.
that's how
We're
it's gonna go.
Limit-
Yeah, we're already
Limited emissions will put us in a position where we're going to be in real trouble. Here's where we have a great opportunity. I was able to get both all the environmental organizations as well as labor, people worried about jobs.
We're on the brink of
to
the idea of like
support
democracy
my
in essence
climate
being
plan.
destroyed, like with
Because
the
what
whole.
it does,
All of it.
will
Like,
create
environment,
millions
democracy.
If he has another
good
4 years,
paying
like
jobs. We're going to invest
if he had another 4 years, and
500,000,
how like the we
50,000,
spent that time I think convincing and trying to figure out how
charging
to
stations. on our highways.
Like, how do we
so
get
that we can
around
own the electric car market in
a
the future.
limit?
In the
term limit
meantime,
too,
China is
you know?
doing that. We're going to be in a position where we're going to see to it
Like, right?
that
Can you
we're
see
going
that?
to take
And that's like
4
now we're
million
like
existing
literally the end of
buildings
this,
and 2
and
million
now we're
existing homes and retrofit them so they don't leak as much energy, saving
this fascist
hundreds
man,
of millions of
just
barrels
this
of oil
piece of
in the
shit
process
person
and
forever.
creating significant number of jobs.
Still don't understand how we.
And
I
by
mean,
the
get
way,
how we became
the
president.
whole
It's
idea
still
of what this is all going to do, it's
people,
going to
but,
create millions of jobs, and it's going to
We're
clean the
vote. What is
environment.
it?
Our
2
health
weeks?
and our jobs are at stake. That's what's happening. And what right now, by the way, Wall Street firms
Less than 2
indicated
weeks.
that
Week and a half.
my plan
Week and a
plan
half.
will in fact create 18.6 million jobs, 7 million more than his. This is from Wall Street, and I'll create $1 trillion more in economic growth
Voting
than
days
his
in 12
proposal
days.
does. Not on climate, just on the economy.
Who's it gonna be?
President Trump, you're
They came out and said very strongly, $6,500 will be taken away from families under his plan. That his plan is an economic disaster. If you look at what he wants to do, if you look at his plan, his
Nothing to do with
environmental
climate.
plan, you know who developed it? AOC +3. They know nothing.
AOC
about the
plus
climate.
3.
I
Wow.
mean, she's got a good line
Know
of
nothing
stuff,
about.
but she knows nothing about the climate. And they're all hopping through hoops for AOC +3.
Really,
Now,
Alexandra
these
Ocasio Cortez.
they're real
Alexandra
clever.
Ocasio Cortez knows
If we
nothing
had
about
the best
climate
year in
change.
the history
Nothing.
of our
Like,
country,
I just
for
can't.
100 years, we would not even come close to a
I
number like
believe
that.
that most
When
people
he
under
says buildings,
30
they want to take buildings down because they want
know
to
more
make
about
bigger
climate change than
windows
people over
into smaller
60.
windows. As far as they're concerned, if you had no window, it would be a lovely thing. This is the craziest plan
That's
that
what they
anybody
want,
has ever
no
seen.
window.
If you
And
had
this
no
wasn't done
window,
by
The shit
smart
that he
people.
says
This
it's gonna be
wasn't
the
done
end.
by
He says they want you to have
anybody.
no
Frankly, I don't
window.
even know how it could be good
All right.
politically. They want to spend $100 trillion. That's their real number. He's trying to say it was 6. It's $100 trillion. They want to knock down buildings and build new buildings with little, tiny, small windows. I mean, and many other things.
Okay.
And many other things.
Let me have the Vice President
It
respond,
is
and we're running out of
crazy.
time.
Because
We have a
windows
lot
are the
more
biggest,
questions
like,
to
destroy
get
our
to.
country.
So let's hear from the Vice President. I have a number more
I
questions.
don't know where he comes from. I don't know where he comes up with these numbers.
Queens.
$100 trillion. Give
You
me
say
a
Queens.
break. This plan is endorsed by every major environmental group and every labor group. Labor, because they know the future lies. The future lies in us being able to breathe, and they know there are good jobs in getting us there. And by the way,
Literally,
the
Biden's like,
fastest
we're gonna
growing
clean the
industry in
environment
America
and we're gonna help the
are
economy.
is
Yeah.
is
It's gonna clean the
is
environment and
electric-
help the
electric-
economy.
the,
Yeah.
excuse me,
What is his whole thing?
solar
Like, you're
energy
either getting
and wind.
fucked or you're
He
doing
thinks
the
wind
fucking.
causes cancer, windmills. It's the fastest growing jobs, and they pay good prevailing wages, 45, $50 an hour. We can grow and we can be cleaner if we go the route I'm proposing.
President
Excuse
Trump,
me.
please
We are
respond,
green
and then I
around.
have
We
some
are
follow-up.
energy independent for the first time.
Green party's
We
been talking about
don't
for a long
need
time.
all of these countries that we had to fight war over because we needed their energy. We are energy independent. I know more about wind than you do. It's extremely expensive, kills all the birds, it's very intermittent, it's got a lot of problems, and they happen to make the windmills in both Germany and China. And the fumes coming up, if you're a believer in carbon emission, the fumes coming up to make these massive windmills is more than anything that we're talking about with natural gas, which is very clean. One other thing.
Find me a
Solar.
scientist said that.
I love solar, but solar doesn't quite have it yet. It's not powerful yet to really run
Yet.
our big, beautiful
But that's we need to
factories
Because
that
you're
change,
not
like,
to compete
because we're not
with the
investing.
world.
Yeah, not investing
So,
to change
it's all
anything. Like
pipe
we
dreams.
need to change.
But
You
you
just
know
can't
what
keep
we'll do?
using
We're
natural,
gonna have the greatest
non-renewable
economy in the world.
fucking
If
sources.
you want to kill the economy, get rid of your oil industry. You want, and what about fracking?
All right,
Now-
let me
now we
let
have
me
to
have
ask
let
him
me
about
allow
fracking.
Vice President
I
Biden to
have
respond.
Now we have
never
to-
said I oppose fracking.
You said it on
I-
tape.
I did show the tape. Put it on your website.
I'll put it on.
Put it on the website. The fact of the matter is,
Showed
he's
it last
flat lying.
Would you
Flat.
rule out banning fracking?
I do rule out banning fracking because the answer we need other industries to
Diversify.
transition to get to ultimately a complete zero emissions by 2025. What I will do with fracking over time is make sure that we can capture the emissions from the fracking, capture the emissions from gas, We can do that.
Right, we have
and
to
we can
move
do
in a
that by
direction. We
investing
can't
money
just,
and
like,
doing it. But it's a transition.
things are reliant
that.
on it, but we
I
can,
have
like,
one more
change,
question.
like,
This
change.
finally-
Excuse me,
we have-
he was against fracking. He said it.
Can happen.
I will show that to you tomorrow.
Saying I'm not
I
gonna-
am against fracking. Until
I'm
he
not
got the
gonna
nomination,
destroy
went to
the
Pennsylvania, then he said,
foundation
but you know what,
guys have, but I'm
Pennsylvania?
not
He'll
gonna-
be
we're gonna
against it very
invest in
soon
the
because
future,
his
but I'm not
party
gonna
is
ruin
totally
the
against it.
Fracking on federal land, I said.
Right.
No fracking.
You
and
said-
or
Right,
oil
thank you.
on
No
federal
fracking
land.
on
Let me ask
federal
this
land.
final
That
question
was-
in this section, and then I want to move on to our
So
final
just fracking on
section.
other people's
President
shit.
Trump, people of color are much more
No.
likely to live near oil refineries and chemical
Rugal.
plants. In Texas, there are families who worry the plants near them are making them sick. Your administration has rolled back regulations on these kinds of facilities. Why should these families give you another 4 years in office?
The families that we're talking about are employed heavily, and they are making a lot of money, more money than they've ever made. If you look at the kind of families that we produce,
The families that are worried about getting sick, they're employed,
Asian,
have
It's
employed by
9
the
times
companies and
greater
making a
the
lot of
percentage
money and
gain
making enough money
than
that
it
they
was under-
shouldn't.
in
They
3
should
years
be. They
than it
should
was under
care. They
8
shouldn't
years of the two of them, to put it nicely. 9 times more. Now, somebody lives, I have not heard the numbers or the statistics that you're saying, but they're making a tremendous amount of money economically. We saved it, and I saved it
Literally
again a
saying
number of
because
months
they
ago
make
when
money.
oil was crashing because of the
It's okay.
pandemic. We
Okay.
saved
That's
it.
gross.
We got, say what you want about relationship.
I
We
mean,
got
did they know
Saudi
that at the time?
Arabia,
Are they signing anything
Mexico,
saying like
and Russia
is that
to cut back
a little
way
different?
back.
But we should
We
be doing
saved
it
our
anyway.
oil
We could just
industry,
diversify
and now
business.
it's very vibrant again.
All
And
right.
everybody has very inexpensive gasoline. Remember
Vice
that.
President Biden, your response, and then we're going to have a final question for both of you.
My response is that those people live on what they call fence lines. He doesn't understand this. They live near chemical plants that in fact pollute, chemical plants and oil plants and refineries that pollute. I used to live near that when I was growing up in Claymont, Delaware. And all the more oil refineries in Marcus Hook and the Delaware River than there is any place, including in Houston at the time. When my mom get in the car and when there was first frost to drive me to school, turning the windshield up, there'd be oil stuck in the window. That's why so many people in my state were dying and getting cancer. The fact is, those frontline communities, it doesn't matter what you're paying them, it matters how you keep them safe. What do you do?
Doesn't matter what you're
You
paying them, it
impose
matters
restrictions
how you
on
keep them safe.
pollutions that the pollutants coming out of those fence line communities.
Okay, I have one final
Would he
question.
close
It
down
falls-
the oil industry?
It falls.
Would you close
it
down the
falls-
oil
By the way, I
industry?
would transition from the oil industry, yes. I
Oh,
will
that's a big
transition.
statement.
It is a big statement
That's a big
because
statement.
I would stop
Why would you do that?
because the oil industry pollutes significantly.
I see.
Here's the deal, but
That's
you
a
can't
big
do that.
statement.
Well, if you let me finish the statement, because it has to be replaced by renewable energy over time.
That's like
And I
literally
stopped
like
giving to the oil
freshman
industry, I stopped
science.
giving them
Al
federal
Gore, like,
subsidies.
20
We
years
won't give
ago,
federal
like-
subsidies to the gas, excuse me, to solar and wind.
and he was a vice president.
Why are
right?
we giving
And
it
he
to
was
the
saying
oil
the
industry?
same,
We have to
in
do
the
All
same
right.
way.
solar
Like,
wind.
We
And
have
that's
one
that's why-
final
that's why he
biggest
lost
statement
the
is
election.
using business.
Water
That's the biggest
rise,
statement.
and it's the
Because
same.
basically
One
what
final
he's saying
question
is he is
for
going to
President.
destroy.
That's what he did with his
The
after
oil
being a vice
industry.
president.
Will you remember that Texas? Will you
Okay.
remember that Pennsylvania, Oklahoma?
Vice President Biden, let me give you 10 seconds to respond, and then I have to get to the final question. Vice President Biden.
He takes everything out of context, but the point is, look, we have to move toward a net zero emissions. The first place to do that by the year 2035 is in energy production, by 2050 total.
All right. One
Is he gonna
final
get
question
China to
both
do
of you.
it?
No, we're finished with
Is
this.
he
We
going
have
to
to
get
move on
China
to
to
our
do it?
final question. We
Well,
have to
I'm
move
going
on
to
to our
rejoin
final question.
Paris Accord and make China abide by what they agreed to.
All right,
Okay.
this is about leadership, gentlemen. And this first question does go to you, President Trump. Imagine this is your inauguration day. What will you say in your address to Americans who did not vote for you? You'll each have 1 minute, starting with you. Mr.
We have to make a country totally successful as it was prior to the plague coming in from China.
Oh my
We're
God.
rebuilding it, and we're doing record numbers,
Plague coming in from
11.4
China.
million jobs in a short period of time, etc. But I will tell you, go back. Before the plague came in, just before, I was getting calls from people that were not normally people that would call me. They wanted to get together. We had the best black unemployment numbers in the history of our country. Hispanic, women, Asian, people with diplomas, with no diplomas, MIT graduates, #1 in the class. Everybody had the best numbers. And you know what? The
Oh,
other
really?
side wanted to get together. They wanted to unify. Success is going to bring us together. We
So
are
what
on
will
the
you say to
road
Americans who
success,
did not vote for
but
you?
I'm cutting taxes, and he wants to raise everybody's taxes, and he wants to put new regulations on everything. He will kill it.
But he didn't
When
win.
he
It's
gets in,
inauguration
you will have
day.
a
Follow the
depression, likes
prompts.
of which you've never seen.
So he
Your
has nothing to say to that.
401ks will
Basically,
go to
he just
hell,
does it. He's
and it'll
like,
be a very, very sad day for this country.
All right. Vice President
That's
Biden,
where
same
you're gonna
question to
stand, I
you.
agree.
What will you say during your inaugural address to Americans who did not vote for you?
I will say, I'm an American president. I represent all of you, whether you voted for me or against me. And I'm going to make sure that you're represented. I'm going to give you hope. We're going to move. We're going to choose science over fiction. We're going to choose hope over fear. We're going to choose to move forward because we have enormous opportunities.
somebody went to school today.
Enormous opportunities to make things better. We can grow this economy. We can deal with the systemic racism. And at the same time, we can make sure that our economy is being run and moved and motivated by clean energy, creating millions of new jobs. And that's the fact. That's what we're going to do. And I'm going to say, as I said at the beginning, what is on the ballot here is the character of this country. Decency, honor, respect,
Yes,
treating
decency,
people with
honor,
dignity,
respect.
making sure that everyone has an even chance. And I'm going to make sure you get that. You haven't been getting it the last 4 years.
All right. I want to thank you both for a very robust hour and a half, a fantastic debate. Really appreciate it. President Trump, former Vice President Joe Biden, thank you to Belmont University for hosting us tonight. And most importantly, thank you to
Even
those
Trump's
watching
big
tonight.
smile is,
Election
like,
Day
not-
is November 3rd.
It's like a
Don't
November
forget to
3rd.
vote. Thank you, everyone, and have a great
Wait,
night.
where are you going?
Thank you.
Oh, you have to stand.
You just stretch it out.
Well, stretch here. Move your chair and stretch. I mean, what do you think overall? Who wins?
Hmm? Who wins?
You're like, this is really a question. Vote for Joe Biden. It was definitely like a much better debate as a whole.
I like the other one. I like the second one.
The second one, the town hall one,
No, the one they're screaming.
the first one, yeah. Why? Because it's more entertaining. Yeah, definitely less entertaining as a whole. We're in for a dark winter with Biden. The world leader's relationship with us would improve.
Oh,
Has
Putin, when he
has
said "fuck you," I thought that was good. I'll tell Putin I don't like you.
Oh
I
right,
don't-
yeah. Well,
I
Joe
don't like
Biden.
that shit.
Joe Biden has told Putin he's a shitty person before.
That's what he said. He's
Honestly,
like,
yeah.
I
I've looked Putin in the eye and shook
I
his hand and said, "Yeah." Well, anyway, that was fun. Feel like I knew all of that and nothing changes my mind. I just want everyone to vote for Biden. If you didn't think voting was important, voting's important because Trump. We just can't. We don't have to.
We don't have to. hear
Who's the face of America? This is not it.